Hi guys, it's Mark Zickery, Mr. Sci-Fi, Mark Zickery of Space Command, and I'm just getting the other table feed live, and so we'll just do that right now, and feel free to ask me questions, and we will rock and roll. So hold on a second, I'm just getting online on there. It's going to be another fun evening full of lots of talk and all sorts of stuff. It's been a busy week with a lot of stuff happening, both in our personal life and on the private scene. So that's pretty cool. So, okay, so it's going to be a second or two before we get the table feed, but hi Ziggy, it's good to see you there. And we're just installing Zoom on Elaine's computer, and then we'll go live with the table. There's Elaine, you can see her in the frame. For all those who are watching Mr. Sci-Fi, join meeting. I don't know what the personal, hold on a second guys, this is a little tricky. Meeting ID, oh gosh, meeting password. Okay, there we go, and there's this, and launching, click here to launch the meeting. Open Zoom US, join video call, yes. Remember my name for future meetings, yes. Okay, don't turn off my video, it's connecting, let's see if it works. And then we'll find out this modern age. Mark Lungo's here, Scott Cola's here. Hi, guys. Lots to talk about tonight. Space shots from SpaceX, burning cop cars in our neighborhood, burning buildings in our neighborhood, the soldiers in big vehicles everywhere. And, you know, it's definitely a new world. So for some reason, it's not connecting up. There we go. So join with video. There we are. And it's connecting. Sorry, it's taking a while. Of course, it's the modern age. By the way, if you haven't ever read this magazine, it's worth checking out. It's really fun. Okay. So, okay, join with computer audio. Yes. And you're using the computer. What? We're too big. No, hang on a second. Where is everybody? This is challenging. Participants, 1. That's bizarre. Supposedly it's just us. Do you want to call Adam Sartain and find out what's going on?
I don't think I have him on my phone.
Oh, God. Hold on a second, guys. Just trying to get this to work, and it isn't, of course. So
You have him?
Call Adam Sartain. Yep. Hold on. We're getting the kinks out.
Sartain.
I have to get a Zoom account. Okay, there. So do you want to just go talk to him? And but meantime, I can answer Mr. Sci-Fi questions. Something's screwy here. Something ain't working. Participants, huh? Or maybe everyone's hunkered down in their homes, afraid of the military. Host disabled attendee screen sharing.
It's not ringing through.
Well, I don't understand. Unmute.
Oh, finally.
There we go. Do you have the speaker on? I think you do. Oh, there's. Hi, Adam. What's going on with the table? We're on the link, and there's only us.
Which link did you hit?
I don't know. It was the one that was sent to the
email. It may have been the older one.
It may have been an older one. Let me leave the meeting and try again. Hang on one second.
Yeah, I'll send you a fresh email.
Please do.
Okay, thank you.
Because we'll send it on Elaine's email. Okay.
Okay.
Because that's what we're doing.
Gotcha.
Adam Sartain. Okay.
Give it a minute to come through.
Okay. Hold on.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. We're just waiting for his email to come through, and then we'll link. Because the problem is that I have to use my computer for Mr. Sci-Fi because I'm Mr. Sci-Fi. But if you guys have questions about Mr. Sci-Fi, Twilight Zone, Star Trek, any science fiction thing, or any me thing, or any Elaine thing, please do that. We have.
Here you go, hon.
Okay, here we are. So we'll do this. The wonders of the modern age. Okay.
It was probably an old one.
Okay, open Zoom US. Join a meeting, connecting. Slow, very slow, guys. Thank you for really enjoying the show. Beep, beep. But lots is coming. We had a Skype call with a BBC executive today for Subversive. We're working on Ripple Effect, the 2-hour Space Command episode we've been doing during the pandemic, and many cool things. So working on the new book, Greenlighting Yourself. And this is just agonizingly slow. It's not working. So there we go. Let's see. Always show video. Join with video. Let's see if this works. Here we go. Okay, wait. Hang on. Join with computer audio.
Okay.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Then we
Hi, Adam.
unmute. Hi, Adam. Hi.
Okay, I see a few people. Hi.
Can you hear us? Yes.
Yes.
There we
Okay.
go.
Okay.
Hi. Hello.
So there's okay, now we're not getting everyone on the things. Let me do this. There we go. Now
Okay.
we've got it.
Yay.
Phew!
Woo,
That was
okay.
very stressful.
Well,
So,
welcome everyone.
hello, and we're also on Mr. Sci-Fi. So now, who's elsewhere in the country or elsewhere in the world, like New York or London, etc.?
Hands up for east of the Mississippi.
Hands up for those who are east of the Mississippi.
Or not on Pacific time.
Not on Pacific time.
It
yes.
was that a hand, Craig? Yeah, let's start with you, Craig. If you want to unmute.
Is my mic working?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm just trying out a new microphone.
Okay.
Hey, good to be connected. See you guys in a little while here. Updates. Well, I have an interesting new project. Hope it's going to come together.
Okay.
Hello.
So,
but it's doing kind of podcast. I guess.
Cool.
Expert podcast. All about dreams. Those of you who didn't know, I've done a lot of work and had the experience with dreams, lucid dreaming, and such. But this, it seems to kind of run into a little bottleneck around creative control. I guess maybe it's the best way to frame it.
so what's the bottleneck?
Yeah, I'm just trying to kind of like frame it or name it.
Well, just say it.
I guess, well, just this right now is kind of ongoing, but I guess extending into infinite time for editing kind of content versus we have to, I guess, revisit contract payments.
Yeah, I mean, hard deadlines are your friends. You know, getting something done by a specific date is a really good idea. Anything we're working on, we should have a date around it so that people are all on board and know what's going on. So yeah, absolutely.
Do you have an accountability partner?
No, it's kind of, at the moment, I'm just working as an independent for this company. But that I'm on the side of, it's not exactly a date. It's more like I would like to get more pay for what seems to be ongoing substantial edits that weren't really included. So it's a bit of a delicate thing because they want the edits, but it hasn't been named, and now it's kind of come to a no communication.
Well, that's not good. I mean, the first step is you write down on a piece of paper what you actually want concretely. And then you say, I wanted to have a conversation of possibility with you. And then you talk about it. And if they'll either say yes, no, or maybe,
Well, what gets us into trouble is sometimes, not always, but sometimes what gets us into trouble is we assume before we enter into a negotiation, we're going to lose. Rather than being, rather than saying, without any kind of bad feeling, just saying, well, this is what's going on. This is what I need to keep going. Let's talk about it. It's lasted longer than either of us think. I was talking to a composer a while back, and it was they wanted to cut the music budget, and I said, okay, that's fine. Do 2 1 minutes of the show, two single minutes. One that would be if they gave them sufficient money, the way it would sound, and one the way it would have to sound with the budget they cut back to. I said, just say, which would you prefer? This is what I would need if you gave me this budget. And if you wanted this, and this is what I can do for this. And they gave him his budget, his full budget. But it was like just completely a talk of, practicalities. And to say, well, this is how much longer I can go. This is the kind of attention I can pay. And I hate to pay less if you give me this. But if you can give me this, then you can get this kind of job, which I'd suggest, but it's up to you. So sometimes it's just a matter of, no bad feeling. We tend to, when we get nervous, we load things, and that makes conversations more difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
that's true. Just to kind of update, that's great, Elaine. That's exactly what I've sent them.
Great.
Hopefully with no charge. I'm pretty clear of this I can do with this, and with this we have to revisit the budget.
Perfect.
Now it's been dead air, though.
Dead air.
Well,
how long has it been?
I can't get too attached to it, I guess. I don't know, about 4 days, and usually they respond within an hour. So.
Okay. Well, just be a squeaky wheel. Be a squeaky wheel.
Friendly, squeaky wheel.
Yeah, sure.
Warm and friendly, and say, these are hard times, but let's at least be in communication. And just be endlessly upbeat and friendly about it. Because
well, so far I'm there, but we'll see.
Great.
What do you suggest for like more generally about when, at least I don't know if it's perceived or actual, but if let's say there's a power imbalance, somebody holds all the cards for creating contracts, answering emails, etc.
Well, I mean, again, you have to look at what they need from you and what the urgency is around that versus what you need for them and what the urgency is around that. It's like, first of all, before you ever do a job for anyone, write down what the terms are and have them sign off on it so that there's clarity. This will be done by this date and you will pay me by such an, like within this time frame. You basically make it very specific. And
if they start to add on beyond that,
yes.
then before you touch the, beyond that, then you say, oh, I'm excited about this, but we're shifting the terms of the contract, so let's talk for a minute and see what you can afford.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, great, because that's where it's at. So it sounds like you just gave me a confidence booster for just gonna go with what I said, and if it gets weird, there's not much I can do about it.
Yeah, but the main thing is clarity, and not working for free and not feeling like you're being misused. The other thing, of course, is figuring out what your long-term goals are, because then everything in the moment becomes less urgent and less important. It has less weight when you know where you're headed, because then the future is drawing you toward it, the positive future, and so it makes it much easier to deal with the minutia of the moment. So there's that as well.
If you can assume you're in the power position, just say yes or no, and just say be warm and friendly, warm and friendly, warm and friendly. And so it never gets loaded. You're in the power position. You can always say no and just say, well, this is what I need. If they and if they don't respond, say, okay, I'm gonna have to move on. If I don't hear from you, whatever's going on, I can't say, but if I have to move on, I hope we can work in the future. And if you take the power position, you can stay warm and friendly and maybe, come revisit. But it's when we don't assume ourselves in the power position that we get into all kinds of emotional trouble with ourselves, and there's no way to win. But if you're in the power position, you can't help but win.
Yeah. So that's some of it. So okay, anything else for now?
I appreciate that.
Okay, great. 3 cheers, Craig. Yay. So Adam, is there
Everybody's staying safe, I hope.
Okay, great. Well, so Adam, is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes. Our first question is from Beep Beep I'm a Car, returning question.
Great.
Questioner, who asks, you might have been asked this before, but what has been your best show or movie to work on?
Space Command. Yay. It's always what I'm working on now. I've loved so many of the things I've worked on, and that Elaine and I have worked on together. Obviously, the Star Trek episode with George Takei, obviously Far Beyond the Stars, obviously Sliders, Real Ghostbusters was great. There was a show called Black Star that I wrote a number of episodes for, an animated show that I really enjoyed. Tons of it. Working on the Twilight Zone Companion was terrific. Everything is swell.
The great thing about Far Beyond the Stars for Mark was that he was doing all these things that he didn't know if he could do them.
Yeah, and still don't.
Yeah, but it's sometimes you stretch and you may trip a few times, but you don't actually fall flat on your face.
Right.
It's exciting because suddenly there's all this new possibility.
Yeah, I strongly believe in working in areas that you don't know what you're doing. Elaine is a much stronger director than I am. Well, she's very strong with actors. I'm strong visually, and so that's a very, very good combination. I can work with actors, and I do have an emotional palette, in communicating with my actors. But Elaine is definitely better, having been an actress and being a director, and she's better, smarter, everything.
Well, when I was working, we were working on a thing, putting together a pilot presentation with Tom Fontana, and I'd never produced before, but I was having to produce this because it was my money, and so I learned very, very quickly.
Yes.
And then I found out that it's not space science, and if it's your money, how quickly you can learn if you just ask enough questions and get together with enough good people.
Yeah.
And so we got through it, and I said, oh, yeah, you can do anything if it's your money.
But a good rule of thumb is do your best and then move on and do better. It's like,
And to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, and let's see, I guess, who else is on the East Coast or the UK or whatever? Show of hands.
Anybody else?
Guys? Anybody else?
No? Out of our time
Okay.
frame? Okay.
So I guess Jean St. James, if you wanna go, just unmute.
Oh,
you have to unmute?
Unmute.
Yeah.
There you
Okay.
are. Okay.
There you go. Great. Go for it.
First of all, thank you guys, because even from what you've just said tonight, I think it was a lot of what I needed to hear.
Cool.
Really?
I'm trying to rebuild my website, and it's very old.
Mhm.
And I've been talking to different web designers, and one has already said it's beyond his capability because it's kind of complicated.
Mhm.
So I wanted to ask here. I think
Sure.
it was the guy Daniel who had responded, but I don't remember what happened. But this week was very complicated, I'm sure, for all of us.
Mhm.
So anyway, anybody that can give me insights. One thing I am doing that you were talking about is getting very specific and writing down exactly what I need in every area of it. So so that when I do have an agreement, that I'm aware if I start adding other stuff that I can't expect them to do that without paying more.
Right.
So I feel like I'm on the other end of Craig's conversation.
Mhm.
Well, there's a fellow that table member who's in Georgia right now, but that doesn't matter. It's been very helpful to me. Brian McClure.
He's in Atlanta, not the Russian Georgia.
Yeah.
It's very important to specify.
David, could you shoot over Brian McClure's information to her?
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Brian's been very helpful. He's a sweet fellow, and he can tell you I don't know exactly what he charges for what you need, but he's very competent.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. I need somebody apparently really competent, more competent than I knew, because people saying it's beyond me. I'm going, okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really have anything else I needed, but I wanted to let people know, and I put out an email that Jason Kennedy, who cast NCIS and has for many years, and all of NCIS, Louisiana, LA, where, it's all over. There's several versions of it. Anyway, he is going to come to my company, ITA, tomorrow for a free Q&A, and anybody who wants to join, I sent it out in an email. I'm happy to put it in the chat here.
Cool.
To sign up. You can.
Great.
And it'll be from 1 to 2 tomorrow.
Great. Terrific.
Great.
Well, 3 cheers. Yay. So, Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes. Next question is from Ziggy, who asks, are you releasing both parts of Ripple Effect on June 20th?
Yes, unless we have to bump it a week or two, depending on what's going on. We're trying right now. We're trying for the June 20th date. We're waiting on Barbara Bain's scene. She starred in Space 1999.
She's working on it.
She's great, and also we're doing one other scene with a young actor who's going to be playing Bill Mumy as a kid. Bill Mumy's character, Greg Massey. So. But other than that, I think we've got all the scenes in hand, which is very, very exciting. And as I just mentioned, it's a 2-hour episode, so it's going to be quite splendiferous. And So
the date's not completely set in stone quite yet.
But
But when we do get there, it's going to be the full 2-hour.
Basically, it's going to be a 1-day live streaming Space Command convention. It'll be in the next few weeks, and we'll start by airing the first hour of the show of Space Command, and then we'll premiere the 2-hour Ripple Effect, and then the rest of the day will be panels with our cast and crew and so forth. So it's going to be really, really fun and totally free. Totally free.
Filming that has been a lot of fun, because it's like people with their own cameras, but sometimes they're not too familiar with the lighting or how to work their cameras, and so our wonderful DP Massimiliano Trevis. He FaceTimes them, and they FaceTime prior, and he walks them through. He says, "Show me your place, show me where you're sitting," and talks through the lighting where they don't have to buy anything. And so basically, he helps them. He's a DP from forever. And what was his Red Violin? He was
an operator on the Red Violin.
He's been around forever, starting in Italy.
Yeah.
And he'll just walk our people through via FaceTime, because of the COVID, how to get themselves lit, shot. And it's a lot of fun, and it's all done long distance. So,
cool. Yeah. So great. So Adam, how about we do something daring and revolutionary and have your turn now?
Oh wow! Well, I guess we could do that.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yes.
So my name's Adam Sartain. For anyone who doesn't know me, I am an actor, voice actor, and a musician. I play the tuba. and I have a web series to prove it called Adam Plays the Tuba. And just today, I just submitted both a voiceover audition and a self-tape audition. I had a friend help me with it. It's for a short film that's filmed via Skype or via Zoom, as it were. So I was in my element, and it was for Dungeons and Dragons for me to play a dungeon master. So again, in my element. A role that I can really sink my teeth into.
That's great. So
yeah,
terrific.
So things are looking up.
Great.
For me. I don't really have an ask right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and I should also mention that I am also an associate producer on Space Command.
Yay! Now, also given that, you and a supporter of Space Command in many a way. And
yes.
For one thing to mention is we're now offering not just full shares of Space Command, but half shares for anyone who can't afford the 7,500 but can afford 3,750. So just because we're committed to keeping our people on payroll, we're committed to keeping our studio open so that we can continue shooting. So under whatever strictures are required. So just to let everyone know.
Thanks for mentioning that, Adam. I'll add it to the credits.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes. So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
Yeah, let's move on to the next question, which is a very good question from Wilhelm Sowers.
Yes, hi,
asks,
Wilhelm.
What is, if you know, the current relationship between Paramount and the Star Trek fan base after the Axanar lawsuit?
Well, it's sort of the relationship between those guys in the backwoods and Ned Beatty and Deliverance, really. But seriously, it's I mean, Star Trek, the studio seems to view Star Trek just as a cash cow, and they want to appeal to the largest number of people possible, the largest demographic possible, and they really haven't quite nailed it. I mean, the JJ's first Star Trek movie I liked, but it's been diminishing returns ever since. The Star Trek TV shows, I mean, Picard was better than Star Trek Discovery, but neither of them have really knocked it out of the park. I don't think they think for a moment more about Axanar once they, came to a settlement and kind of shut down.
What do you think the fans do that?
What do the fans think? The fans think whatever they think. I think it's across the spectrum. Some people love, the new Star Trek TV shows. Some people are on the side of Axanar. Some people feel that Axanar brought everything to a screeching halt in terms of the fan films. It's a big, Megillah. My thinking is, I think that Alec Peters was trying to do something from love of the franchise, and I don't think they should have stomped him the way they did. But it's not for me to say. And very much when I did, the Star Trek episode with George Takei, I knew that Paramount was eventually going to shut everybody down, and so that's why I created Space Command, so I would own it and no one could shut us down. So, now we're approaching 500,000 views on the latest post of the first hour of Space Command. And with all the other times I posted the work in progress, we've had over 1 million people watch that pilot. And that's cool. Very, very cool. Yeah. So
the most inflammatory thing was that he had worked very, very hard and wanted to step out of being a found film, but he didn't own the franchise. And he just thought that he could simply take that step without having pre-negotiated a piece of the franchise, and that, of course, that didn't work. It was an error in judgment in terms of corporate.
Yeah. Okay. So now I guess we can go to David Bartlett.
Hey, David.
He's there in his the brown tones. There you go.
Right.
Hi.
Hi. Yes, I'm David Bartlett. I am a filmmaker, a human rights activist, and a teacher, and I'm also the co-producer of Space Command.
Yay!
Also the producer of Ripple Effect and the head of casting and in charge of building the sets and a lot of other things.
Yeah.
But I started out my career.
Yes.
But what have you done for us lately?
And you're in the best scene in Ripple Effect. You were actually the star.
Effect, yes.
Yeah.
Apparently I steal the show.
Yes, yes. Well, the credits on it are going to read Space Command Ripple Effect starring David Bartlett, and then everyone else will just be with. It's like,
Barbara will be Ann. We know
yes,
that.
yes, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, I made my first film when I was 10 years old. I started making films in high school after that and doing theater. I worked in movie theaters until I was 21 and moved to LA, and working pretty much right away on some really large films as an intern and then as independent films with Roger Corman. I built sets with people like James Cameron when he was a production designer.
Great.
And I have a couple of, then I worked on Pulp Fiction and Speed and Total Recall and a bunch of giant movies like that. Then I started doing independent films of my own and with other people, and I've now won 64 Film Festival Awards.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have a film that's out now. It's called I'm the Flag, starring Jimmy Weldon. It's 100% patriotic, non-political, non-anything film. And it's just last week crossed over 500,000 views. So very excited about that. And what I want to do is I want to get people to watch it and subscribe, because if I get enough subscribers, we can start having YouTube give us advertising, and then I can start donating the money to the different military funds that are out there for veterans. And Jimmy Weldon, the star of the film, he's the last surviving cast member of the original Yogi Bear show. He was Yankee Doodle Duck, and he was with Patton's Third Army at Buchenwald concentration camp when they liberated it. And it's an amazing story that he tells. And he's 96 and he's still going strong. So I want to get him some money and get him support with his charity, which teaches patriotism to school children so they don't forget about things like the Holocaust and whatnot.
Cool.
So I have one story I've never told at the table. Mark hasn't heard this. No one's heard this. I was reminded about this with Michelle Hart. Is Michelle here today? Tonight?
She was.
Hi,
there
Michelle,
she is.
there she is. Hey, you moved. Okay.
So she reminded me I worked in a film called I forgot the name of the film.
Well, this is a very great.
Swayze and his wife.
Sure.
Lisa Niemi and a third dancer were friends of theirs, so were dancers. They made this beautiful film about three dancers returning back to the boards after many years of being apart to do the big dance one last time.
One last dance at the time.
The Last Dance. That's
One last dance.
One last dance.
You named it. It used to be called The Last Dance.
Well,
One Last Dance.
Okay.
I pulled it up on Netflix, and that's how it came.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So there you go. So One Last Dance. So here's how I ended up getting that job. So you know how to get jobs in Hollywood. You can use this as an example. I'm sitting in the meeting with him and his wife and the owner of the studio I worked in. The four of us are in one of those outdoor parasol awning things with those plastic chairs that stack up, We're sitting there talking. I'm just listening. So time is passing and they're talking for a while. And finally, Patrick turns to me and he says, "So you've seen the film. What would you do with the film?" And I said, well, and before I could even talk, all four legs of my chair shattered. I was on my ass and on my back. Okay.
Great.
They all stared at me horrified. I didn't know what to do, so I stood up and I did one of those Olympic things where you put your arms up like this and like this. And they all laughed. And later, Patrick said that we got the job because of how I responded to that potential disaster.
Wow.
That's great.
Well, yeah, you should do that every time. That's
you
great.
never know when humor is going to have its effect.
Yeah, humor is funny when it works.
Yeah. So that said, Space Command is entering into a very interesting period.
Yes.
Where we've got a lot of production, a lot of activity, a lot of post-production, and we're actually, with social distancing, building sets. We've got a few people working in the studio. We're moving forward on the cave walls, which have been transformed into interior of an alien spaceship. And we've got a lot of foam to be sprayed on these things, painting to be done, other kinds of work to be done. So if anyone's interested in helping out, we have a couple of people that can come. We have a large studio, so we can keep our social distancing. Wear masks and everything, and we're now actually moving forward to build some of these sets. So if anyone's interested, you can contact me. My email is davefilms, DAVEFILMS @hotmail.com. And Mark and Elaine and Adam and Dave Edison and many others know how to reach me. You can reach me through the table email, whatever it is, and if you want, you can come down and pitch in.
Great.
So that's happening over the next week or two, and we're also gearing up to do a ton of fulfillment. You don't know what that is.
Great.
Kickstarter is a great way to raise money. It's also a great way to give things back to the people that give you contributions. I'm in charge of that too.
Great.
There's a lot of it. So I can use help doing that. I have people doing that right now. I have people that are helping me stuff envelopes, do mailings, create different kinds of communications with people. There's a lot to be done there too. And a lot of that can be done at home. In fact, Michelle's going to help me out with some of that next week. So we've got projects like that that are available too. So if you're all interested, you can contact me through the email and do it that way.
Great.
And that's, I guess I'm going to do the table in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's right.
You guys will be in town, so I'll be on the other end of this, which will be exciting.
Yeah, that'll be great.
It's our anniversary in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
It's good enough to take over the.
It's actually going to be our 43rd anniversary, so that's pretty amazing. So yeah, so great. So 3 cheers! Yay!
So that's kind of the nutshell right now.
Okay.
I think I left anything out.
Nope, I think that's it.
All right, good. There you are.
Yay.
Great. So Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes, our next question is from longtime commenter Mark Lungo.
Yes.
Who asks, was it difficult to find a child to play a young Bill Mumy, considering that Mumy was so well known as a child?
No, because the way I do things with Space Command is very organically, where I see opportunities as they arise. And so Nathaniel Freeman, who plays Charles Chilton in Space Command, the chief engineer, when he was rehearsing his scene with Angelique, who plays his daughter, he brought a little boy that he helps look after and named Alfie. And Alfie was very, very charming. And I learned that he wanted to be an actor. So we cast him as a young Bob Picardo in the radio play, in the prequel, United Planet. Well, somebody said something. Oh, I don't know.
What?
Whatever was said.
Okay.
But I hadn't, from when I first met him, I thought he could play, Bill Mumy's character as a child. And so then I wrote the scene and off we go. So that's going to be part of Ripple Effect. It's going to open Ripple Effect. It'll be the first scene in the show. So that's going to be very, very fun.
Because he's a super gifted little boy.
Yeah.
We were warned that he memorizes everybody's script and corrects people when their lines go wrong because he knows everybody's script.
Yes.
And he had that Bill Mumy energy, that really sparkle energy. So
yeah,
I think it's going to work pretty well because he's such a sharp little guy.
Yep. And and also, by the way, one other thing is David Bartlett mentioned the perks we're putting together for the Space Command campaign. And some of you know that I was a visual artist before I was a professional writer. So throughout my childhood and teen years into my UCLA experience as a graphic artist and so forth, I did a lot of artwork, and we're going to be putting together a book called The Art of Mark Zicree, and I'll show you one piece that I just dug out. This was all stuff done from when I was a kid to when I was 22, and this is something I did when I was a teenager. It's Frankenstein. So this is my the portrait I did of Frankenstein. If you can see that, let's see if I can get it there. Maybe you guys get it. So, but that's so that'll be something I talk about as well. And so cool. So I guess Kevin, I guess you're next if you want to unmute.
All right.
Great.
Hopefully I'm unmuted.
Great.
Hi. It's nice to be back here. So it's been a while.
Yes.
So I'm Kevin Maffey, for anybody that doesn't know. I'm a composer. And my website is kevinmaffey.com. If you want to contact me. So anyway, like a lot of people during this time, I'm updating my website, blah, blah, blah. And one thing I'd like to do is do something with animation. My reel doesn't have any animation. So I'm not even sure how to go about doing it. Should I just write an email out to the table saying, hey, do you have any, animation that needs music? How would you? So
you want to compose? You want to compose for animation? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
Exactly. I'd put out an email saying, if you're looking for a composer for your animated project, please get in touch with me. Yes, absolutely.
And there is and then through the Writers Guild, there is the animation group. Yeah, but this is a way to get something for your portfolio, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I would start with the table. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, it's just been doing composing and doing other stuff. So
okay. Great. Well, 3 cheers. Yay.
but I think even the animation writers, a lot of them may have their own projects, and where do they meet?
The animation writers, in their homes on Zoom.
Yes, but through the Writers Guild, there is an animation wing. Very nice people, and I think they'll be meeting again as the COVID thing calms down, and again, great people.
And what is this? The Writers Guild?
It's the animation wing of the Writers Guild. The Writers Guild, it's a long story I won't get into, but these are the animation writers who are members of the Writers Guild, and they get together once a month. But now, of course, because of COVID and so forth, I'm sure they're not getting together in person. I'm sure it's via Zoom, but it's still a great group of people. I started in animation in my career, so I started with Smurfs and He-Man and Super Friends and all that stuff when I was in my early 20s. And so, but
they're a warmer and more accessible group than
normal writers.
The normal writers, yeah.
All right, well, that sounds good. If I'm not a writer, I'm a composer.
Right.
Would it be okay for me to join their Zoom? Ask to join their Zoom, or is that kind of?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You can try. I mean, find their online presence and reach out. They're very nice. I mean, probably it'd be absolutely fine. Sure. Great.
There's a Facebook group.
It's a Facebook group. Yeah.
You look up WGA, I think is their.
It's the Animation
Writers Guild.
Right, the Animation Writers Caucus, AWC. So it's a subgroup of the Writers Guild. Yeah. Okay, so I'm sure if you snoop around and you can find their Facebook group or whatever, you'll be able to find it. So okay, great.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Yay! 3 cheers, Kevin. So Adam, another Mr. Sci-Fi query.
Let's move on to Japaron.
Great.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but they ask, what are your thoughts on the differences of 90s sci-fi to current day shows?
It's an interesting question. If you I guess you mean TV shows.
Right.
Sci-fi
shows.
I think they were better structured back then. I think the characters are generally more vibrant. I think that because every episode was a self-contained story by and large, you could have a generally higher batting average, because now if a show has one story over a season, if that story is kind of lukewarm or doesn't quite work or is too jumbled and complicated, then the entire season is a wash. Whereas when they were doing a different story each episode, like for instance, when I was a producer on Sliders, every week it was the same cast, but different storylines. And so we might have an episode that was a little bit of a, okay, not our best, but then we could have episodes that were more wonderful. So, so I think there's that. I guess I would say that the average quality of the shows in the 90s probably was a little bit better than now. But in terms of visual effects, the visual effects now are just astonishing. Shows look like movies. And so, but it's very hard to do a show that really creates memorable characters and wonderful storylines. I mean, there aren't many of those. And so anytime anyone makes that work, it's great, so.
Well, they often get tangled in abstractions and ideas.
Yeah.
And ideas are great, but what's the horse you're riding?
Right.
It's always the character.
But I'm very glad that Space Command is consistently getting 96, 97% thumbs up of the people who watch it. So I think that's terrific, because it's very gratifying that people are liking what we're doing. So let's see. I guess Jacob, you're next on our screen. So you want to do it? Go for it.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. How you guys doing? Jacob Camhus, writer, producer, chief bottle washer, you name it.
Hey, Jacob.
Hey.
Your mic's cranked up a little too much there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2 or 3 notches would be better.
Let's see. I can turn down the volume a little bit.
Yeah, here's a little bit distorted.
Is that better?
It's better. Keep going. You can back up a little bit too. Thanks.
How's that?
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm just waiting to find a time when I can come back. I hear things are sort of opening up in LA. I think next week people can start eating out in restaurants. Is that true?
Yeah. Well,
sort of.
Things keep changing, day to day.
Yeah.
If they want to risk it.
Yes.
Yeah. The thing is, what they're saying now is if you can eat outside, or if your establishment can afford to have people eat inside, but they're feet apart. If your place is too small, you can't do it. or if you don't have outside eating, you can't do it. But right now it's social distancing. However, we just really have to watch this space because so much has been happening so quickly that everyone's afraid of a spike.
Yes.
So we just have
that's
to
what I've been hearing.
take a day to day, and they're trying to push it open with these regulations. Again, the smaller cafes are complaining because they can't afford to have tables that far apart, or they don't have an outside. But we'll see, because things can change on a dime if the spike is too high.
Right. So so that's the situation. But but again, we'll see. It's day by day. But right now we have the army in the in everywhere you go, guys standing in camo with machine guns.
But relaxed. I mean, it's like,
oh yeah, they're very relaxed until they have to kill somebody.
No, people are supposed to be standing guard. But what you want to tell about your experience?
Well, if you go on my Facebook page, you can see me posing by a big armored vehicle with a soldier with his machine gun. It's like it's sort of like because LA is a tourist town. It's sort of like posing with the soldiers, like posing with Mickey Mouse or Superman or any of that stuff. It's everything is a photo op here.
So there's all these kids with guns, but people are chatting them up.
Sure, yeah. I mean, again, you want to. The reason you want to encourage them to make a bond with you is so that when the chips are down, they don't they shoot the person to the left of you or the right of you and not you. I mean, you want to curry favoritism. So there's always that. So Jacob, anything you need?
No, not really. I've just got the development of this one film and working on another script and just making the best of my time to stay productive.
Cool.
So and hang out with you guys once in a while.
Great. That's great. Thanks. Well, 3 cheers. Now, Adam, before we move on to the next Mr. Sci-Fi question, again, I was talking about the artwork I did. This is another one I did as a teenager. There's a very famous science fiction writer named Harlan Ellison, who was one of my mentors and also who wrote City on the Edge of Forever for Star Trek. And this was my portrait of Harlan that I drew. And the one that his signature is on that Polaroid because I sent him a copy of this. I drew 2 of these. And so this is my portrait of Harlan. And if you go on Harlan's website, that's the portrait on his website on the landing page. That's pretty cool. So it's great fun. So, okay, great. So is there another Space Command question?
Yes. First off, shout out to Rose Kirby.
Cool. Hi, Rose.
Who has some... we were talking about fulfillment. She has some fulfillment questions, but don't worry, Rose. I will answer I'll send you a message later tonight on Instagram.
Great.
But our next question is from Juan Suros, who asks, will there ever be another Acker Mansion? It seems like you are ideally skilled and knowledgeable to found a museum of Hollywood sci-fi.
Well, the interesting thing is, for those who don't know, there was a very famous science fiction fan / editor / writer named Forrest J. Ackerman, who created Famous Monsters, the Filmland magazine. He was a friend to Ray Bradbury and Ray Harryhausen, an amazing guy. But the coolest thing about him probably was that he had a house called the Acker Mansion, and it went through various structures over the years as he bought bigger and bigger houses. But he would have all this amazing stuff from movie collectibles, armatures from dinosaurs from King Kong and Spock's ears and all these things. And he would regularly allow people to come into his home for free and enjoy his collection. And that was amazing. And actually some things got stolen over the years, but he still kept it open throughout his whole life. He died in his 90s. And so I'm not that generous a person to let the entire public come through my home, nor is Guillermo del Toro, who of course has Bleak House, which is an astonishing several houses now filled with incredible stuff that I was honored enough to see when I wrote the book with him, but repeatedly. And if someone ever wanted me to advise on a science fiction museum, I'd be happy to. There's a very good science fiction museum up in Seattle, which I highly recommend you go to if you're up there. But the sad part about Forey's collection, which was astonishing, was that he wanted to donate it to LA for free if they would just build, a museum or a wing of a museum to show off his collection. He didn't want it just to go into boxes in a vault somewhere, and LA wouldn't do it. And so his collection ultimately got scattered to the winds, which is really a shame because it was phenomenal, just phenomenal. So so that's the answer to that one. So I guess Bob Pincus.
That's the same thing they did with Debbie Reynolds' Hollywood stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
Well,
there's just a lack of sense of
it's a shame.
History.
It's really a shame. but Hollywood has never been very good at appreciating its own history. So I guess Bob, you want to take your turn? Bob Pincus. Oh, are you there, Bob? Yeah, there you go.
Hello, I'm here.
Hello, hi,
Hi,
Bob.
Am I too loud?
No,
Nope.
you're great.
Okay. Well, I haven't tuned in a while.
Okay, so you're done.
Okay, done. That's it.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Just before all this COVID-19 stuff started, I had a new acquaintance. His name is Mark Zaslov. He's won a couple of Emmys when he's writing for Disney, and he looked at my How I Invented Fake News pilot. He liked it. He gave me some really good input, and I made some changes.
Great.
I'm real happy with it.
Right.
But also, yeah, it's cool. And now it's so in tune with what's going on.
Yes.
So I'm starting off writing court.
Good.
And with all this going. Anyway, and I've been thinking, suddenly we're writing for a changed audience. Have you considered that at all?
Yeah, of course. I mean
there's huge change going on now. It's just astounding. And so I haven't really changed anything because it's just so happens the changes I made fit in, and maybe changing some of the coming up episodes. I'm not sure what to do with it yet, though, but we'll see.
Great.
And that's pretty much it.
But it is a good point. It's important for us to keep in tune
Yes.
with our society and what's going on and what people are longing, what kind of communication people are longing for.
Yes.
Or needing. And so it is important to update based on, but that is a very good point. It's important for all of us.
I've been doing some of those Stage 32 meetings.
Great.
Remember, for a long time, I haven't done anything. But, they're talking about everybody's looking for rom-coms now. And I see signs all around. There's a new one with Anna Kendrick in it.
Sure.
And I've seen the clips from it, and I guess there is a big market for it.
Yeah.
If everybody's doing it,
yeah.
It just seems so out of tune with what's going on.
I never listen to what's popular. I don't give a shit.
I know it.
Because for me, my journey here on this earth is to create content from my heart that I care about and my audience will care about. That's it. I'm never cutting my suit to the current fashion. I'm always making my suit the way I like it, trusting that other people will like it too. And so that's just what I would advise.
And
because
and able to move about in space.
Yes.
It dumbs people down more.
Yeah. Because
it's already epidemic. That's the first epidemic we got going on.
Yeah, well, yeah, but otherwise you're a dog chasing a car that you'll never catch.
Yeah, of course.
And so yeah. So anything else you need, Bob?
No. I just wanted to say hello, and
great.
That's it.
Yay! 3 cheers. So another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
Yes. Our next question is another one from Mark Lungo.
Oh, great.
Who asks, this is for both Mark and Elaine.
Aha!
Why do you think your marriage has lasted so long when so many, especially showbiz marriages, break up?
Well, because he can outrun me.
No.
It's a question that a lot of people, when they seem to go into relationships, they don't work at it the way they do with a friendship. It's like they think, the great romance, they have to read my mind, they have to be, they have to make up for my childhood, all of these other things, rather than working on it the way you would with any kind of serious relationship. And I think where if you're sad, you have to actually explain yourself or express yourself.
Right.
You have to actually try and listen.
Well, you meet in the middle.
Yeah, you meet in the middle. And I think it was the whole conceit that we weren't, you want romance, but you don't want to romanticize the way you are with somebody else. You have to let them be a full person.
Yeah, well, you have to like them as well as love them. Elaine is the best part of my day every day, and I really enjoy working with her and having fun with her and everything. It's just like we trade walking the dog, so she'll walk the dog, it's like, it's nice. Being cooped up, particularly for months like this, thank God we're together, because otherwise we'd be going insane. Yeah.
Well, also, we are alike. We have a like energy. We're both a little OCD, and we both love storytelling. But beyond that, there was a therapist by the name of Robert Maurer who used to deal with theater companies. He would teach, theater people how to get on with each other. But he said in assessing anybody, that the earliest and most basic feeling that we all have is flight or fight. When we feel threatened, do we run? What do we do? What do we do when we get afraid? And he said, you have to know that about a person, because if they feel threatened or if they're feeling bad, do they want to just run over you?
Yes.
Do they start to get hostile toward you?
Well, yeah. Do they lash out, or do they reach out for comfort?
Yes. Do they reach out for comfort and
the
say,
latter is what you want?
Yes. You want somebody who, when they feel pressed, will talk it through and not either try and run from you, run from the situation, or become hostile. It's one of the most key things to know about somebody. Will they handle pressure situations in a grown-up way?
Yes, and fortunately, Elaine is an adult, and I'm not. So it's a nice balance. And but seriously, Elaine often says we're OCD, but we're both. The way I characterize that is we're both extremely driven and ambitious. But fortunately, what we write, the stories we write, are very different from each other. So we can help each other, but we're going to be telling different stories. But we can also meet in the middle, like on the new Space Command episode, Ripple Effect. I'd say Elaine's written about half the scenes, and I've written about half the scenes, and we've kind of tweaked each other's work. But there are certain scenes that are very much her viewpoint, her style, and scenes that are very much mine. And but you wouldn't be able to tell watching it, because like the fun Elaine wrote. The one way you can tell is if you ever have a character saying motherfucker, cocksucker, asshole, anything like that. That's a scene Elaine wrote, and oddly enough, and so a line like fuck you, motherfucking fucker, is an Elaine line.
I don't do that,
absolutely.
but I am.
Well, yeah, you do. I mean, in Ripple Effect, there's a character who says shit once and asshole twice, and that's you. That's your thing. That's your scene. Yeah. Whereas I'll be the one with people making cookies and sewing comforters or whatever, and so that's the differences. Elaine is just a brute, she's
toilet mouth.
Yeah, really potty mouth. And but I mean it's been really, really fun putting together this new episode, and because we were collaborating, and that's been super fun. So let's see. I guess Dave, you're next on our screen.
Hey,
so
Dave.
Go for it. There we go.
Hi, everyone. Yes, if a scene involves the word marzipan, Elaine didn't write it.
No.
So, hi, everyone. Dave Edison here. Hello, Mr. Sci-Fi people as well. If you don't know me, I'm the editor of Space Command.
Yes.
Yay.
Through no fault of my own. And it's been an exciting and crazy few weeks here.
Yes.
I mean, it's trying to stay focused, trying to not be angry and depressed takes up most of my time, including the time when I'm trying to sleep. But this project has been keeping me busy. We have a premiere date that is 16 days from now.
Wow.
That we are absolutely going to miss.
Okay.
There's no way that we can do everything that needs to be done. It's a very ambitious episode. Mark keeps coming up with new things to tweak it out. And different ideas, and has absolutely no idea how long these things take.
Yes. Well. Yes.
We're going as fast as I can, but.
Well, it's like having little shoemaker's elves that do things while I'm asleep, and then I wake up and there's a pair of shoes there, and that's sort of what this process is like. I say to you,
it's kind of like that, but these shoes are going to fall apart if you don't give it enough time to put the stitches in, for example.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, I'm if you folks who can see me on Zoom, I'm looking above here because that's where the project is that I'm working on. I'm working on the list of changes that came in today, trying to put a lawn and a fountain outside of a particular location without breaking any copyrights and swiping anything offline, trying to keep everything legit, and or at least hide it. So anyway, there's a lot of changes we're making here, and like I said, it's pretty ambitious for a bunch of people sitting in their homes, sending in, writing scenes, shooting scenes, sending in scenes.
It's so fun.
Yeah, we have a different definition of fun. But, it's certainly time consuming.
Yes, I would say
it's been an interesting challenge.
Yes, well, I would say our difference in our definition of fun is that your definition of fun is something that you actually enjoy.
Yes.
And I thought you were looking upward because you were asking for heavenly intervention.
Yeah, you're talking to the wrong atheist.
Yeah, really, exactly. Well, there you go. So, anything you need, Dave, other than 6 month vacation?
Yeah, a do-over. I need to do this career over and do it right.
Yes, yes.
But I think I'm a little late to that part of the game.
Look good on camera, Dave.
What's that?
You look good on camera.
Oh, thanks very much. It's better than being in person, right, Bob?
Oh yeah, much better.
That's fun. That's fun.
Anyway, nice to see you, Bob. It's been a while.
Not really, Dave. Not really.
I'm not sure what that was not really too, but
Thanks.
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah, really.
So anyway, good to see you all. Hi, Shai and Billy. I see you down there in New Orleans.
There they are.
And just moving forward, trying to stay healthy, trying to stay safe, trying to come out of this insane situation better with without getting too specific, with some changes that have been long overdue in this country and this world.
Yes.
It may have taken something horrible to get there, but maybe we will. And
we'll find out.
And if you don't mind my saying so, and even if you do, I think one of the big steps in getting there is making some wise decisions in November.
Yes.
Whoever that wise decision might be, and just a hint, it's not the guy there now.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Anyway, all the best, everyone. Stay safe. Best to you and yours.
They're going to cancel the election.
Yeah. Well,
maybe.
But the thing,
I think that you want to see an uprising, do that.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
So stay safe, and I'll keep working, keep listening, and catch up with you soon.
Yay! Thank you, Dave. Great. So, Adam, do we have another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes. Our next question is another one from Wilhelm Sowers, who asks, will there be... let me try and... It's kind of jumbled here. So basically, will there be a Space Command comic that explains the characters' backgrounds?
Yes. In fact, we've already published the first issue. I've written a prequel called United Planet that gives the backstories on all of the major characters set up in our first episode, and we're doing it both as an audio play and as a graphic novel, and then we're combining them into what's called an animatic, which is an animated storyboard. So the second issue is now being drawn. It's going to be ultimately probably 4 or 5 issues that'll then be bundled into a graphic novel. Tahani Farah is the wonderful artist who's doing the work, and and in the radio play we have Bob Picardo, Mira Furlan, Bill Mummy, Michael Harney, and also Neil deGrasse Tyson. And so we're blessed by the people who are working with us, and
Judith, who's here.
Yes, Judith Smiley. Yes, and so it's really exciting, and because again, the fun thing about Space Command is that everything is canon. So that means that the comic books, the novels, etc., are all part of the larger story. And the first novel is completed now, and we're going to be putting that out very soon as well.
But in terms of understanding the characters, that's one of the fun things that we're getting to do with Ripple Effect.
Yes, we're introducing characters that were actually going to appear later in the first season, but because we have the opportunity now, we're introducing them in Ripple Effect. So Armin Shimmerman's character and Christina Moses, and on and on. It's really fun. It's really, really fun. So great. So Susan Flakes, I guess you're next on our screen. There you go.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I wanted to share with you guys something that I did right before I came here. I was on the at stage 32 that I've talked about.
Yes.
The pitch practice.
Yes.
And they were doing 90 seconds instead of 5 minutes. And I thought, I'd been working on one screenplay in particular, but I thought, no, I'm going to go to one I haven't been working on for like a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And I pitched it, and they got so excited about it.
Great.
Francois Villon, a poet from the 15th century, but he was wild.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Dylan even uses his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He was way ahead of his time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they got so excited. I'm going back to it.
Great.
Great.
What a
There's a lot. I want to share with you. There's a lot about Stage 32 that is great.
Mm-hmm.
I did a 10-page thing when you could choose which producer you wanted to look it over.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a whole lot from that. It was a really good producer. Stuff like that. They have a guy named Jason Mitch. He's phenomenal.
That's great.
He's right there with every member, giving you whatever you need to do or know. Anyway, Stage 32.
Great.
Check it out.
Thank you.
Cool.
I'm still on my other screenplay. I'm still looking for an African-American senior producer and director.
Okay.
I have been getting some names. I've been going after. This is a question I wanted to ask you, though.
Sure.
I have a producer, but he doesn't go out and do anything himself. He has his own stuff that he's written, and he's gotten all kinds of money for that and stuff like that.
Yes.
Nothing for ours. And I have to keep going out, and I do all the work and search, and I give it to him. Then he does great emails when I say, okay, well, I've got this, this, and this. But I'm doing so much of the work just finding these people.
Yes.
What do you do with a producer like that?
There's three choices that you have before you. The real question is, does he bring anything to the equation? Because you say he does great emails. If he brings more to the equation than that he drains from it, then you keep him. If you're in a position where you can ask, where you can say, this is what I'd like you to do in addition to what you're doing, if there's a way to have that conversation, that's useful. But many people affiliate with others who basically do nothing and are a waste of space. And I strongly urge people to get rid of those people, because they're dead weight and they'll kill the deal. It's if you feel that he brings something critical,
and
right?
It's not just that you're afraid,
yeah,
but that it's something you need. But one thing that you want to be sure of is you don't need a lawyer for this, but in terms of what a deal memo should be for whoever you join up with, you want to be clear on what they're going to do and what the reward is for what they do, and who makes the final decisions, who has the right to the final decisions,
right? And
people should sign off and say, well, if you're expecting to get this out of it, then what you're saying you're willing to do isn't enough. Let's discuss this. And so you start out with the best possibility for what you want to do and what you'll get out of it, and who you believe should be the final arbiter, and find out his dream of that and discuss it. But it sounds like it's really time to sit down and say, let's have a conversation. What I would love for you to be doing is this, if you're expecting this. But if you're just going to be doing emails, what are you expecting for just doing emails?
Yeah.
So
the thing he does bring to it is he has a lot of credits that I don't have.
Well, that's fine then.
And that really helps.
Here's the thing I would say, Susan. Everyone, and this is only human nature, wants things to go easily. And they almost never do. There's a great line about, on a writing team, each member of a writing team does 90% of the work. And it's true. It's true.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Yeah. And so if this person brings something to the equation, then just accept the way things are. A lot of us are so busy wishing things were different that we're not just accepting the way things are and building from that. Go ahead.
No, to that degree, I disagree. I think
look out.
I think
marriage is over.
Yeah, marriage is over. You should have a conversation. You should have a conversation.
Yeah,
get some clarity in saying, this is what were you assuming you would be doing? What do you want for it? And if he says, well, I think I'm going to be doing emails and just use my credits, and then I expect 90% of everything, to say, well, does that feels uncomfortable to me? Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Say, I really, really value you, but since I'm doing most of the work, let's talk about this. But sometimes you really do have to buy your way in for your first sale with someone with a name. Yeah.
But again, it's like, I'm always looking for who on any team is the closer, who makes things happen. And if you don't have a closer on your team, then that's how things just never end up end up getting to the finish line. And the closer can be an agent, it can be a manager, it can be one of the writers, it can be a producer, it can be a director, but it's a specific skill. And I've seen it a lot. And in some cases, I'm the closer, where I just have that instinct. And but a lot of teams, the reason they don't get to fruition, the projects, is because there's no one who really can make stuff, happen. And
that's why I want a senior producer.
Right.
We're both kind of co-producing, but it isn't quite right. We need somebody, more, like you say, more of a closer.
Yes.
Yeah. But before you get angry, before you get too angry,
right?
Warm and friendly, have that conversation.
Yes.
Share your feelings. Don't sit on something. Before you get angry, just say, I'm having these feelings. Let's talk it through.
I started doing that a little bit. I can do it more.
Great.
Right.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, if you're warm and friendly, but completely open, and say, I would like to have you share your feelings and really listen. It's when we're afraid of loss and we don't share what's going on that sometimes the experience just becomes not very pleasant.
Right.
And there's no reason for you not to be happy with your own project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else, Susan?
No, you've been helpful. Thanks so much.
Yay! 3 cheers. Now, before we go to the Mr. Sci-Fi question, here's another thing I drew when I was, I guess, a teenager. This is a sketch of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So look at that. Isn't that fun? There. So yeah.
Mm.
So okay, cool. So Adam, go for it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
First, I forgot to give a shout out to David Goldenholz. I was just on his podcast earlier today.
Great.
That was a lot of fun conversations there. And actually, he kind of had a question because earlier we were talking about, because it's your guys' anniversary and everything. How did you two meet?
There's a short version and a long version.
Do the short version.
I'll do the short version. The short version was we met when I was in college through a mutual friend, and we moved in together, Elaine and I, very, very soon after we met, and we were married the next year. So I met Elaine when I was 20 and married her when I was 21. So that's the short answer. So, but anyone wants to hear the long answer, well, sometime we'll tell that story. It's quite romantic. So let's see. I guess Carol Field, you're next.
Can you hear me?
Yay, yes. There you are.
Hi, everybody. You are kind of all my anchors right now. As friggin' busy as I am, you're really my anchors.
Oh, great.
So thank you. I know you're all here strictly for me. So thank you. I might need an animator. Same with Kevin. Might need an animator. So should I put a notice on the table?
Yes, start with that, asking for an animator, and then again, there's the animation caucus, and
that sounds great.
Yeah,
sounds great. The play I was in February, I'm getting all this good, interesting feedback, but I need. Has anybody heard of an agent by the name of Katrina Escudero? Any hands? No hands. Has anybody heard of an agency by the name of the Natural Agency? No hands.
What does the net say about them?
What does the net say about them? They're all franchised. They're franchised and everything.
Who are their clients? Do they have a client list? Okay. The best way to tell about an agent is to look up their client list. Two things. Look up their client list, and you can usually track on the net where each agent came from, what their experience was. I always try and look at agencies or production companies where a lot of people came from independent film. And so I think that they'd be more sympathetic to my particular voice.
Okay.
But it's like, who do they represent would often tell you who they're able to sell to. And unfortunately, there are agencies where, we all have to take control of our own destinies, but there are agencies where I can make calls and get through more easily than they can. Some of the smaller agents and agencies, and some of them are lovely people, but they're afraid to pick up a phone, and so I don't know why they're an agent. But yeah, so see who their clients are. That will help you track who they sell to, and do check the backgrounds of the people on their list, and see what their backgrounds are. If it's all for just MBAs, you may have a problem.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Also, I'm so, I might need someone to put something in final draft. I don't want to do it. So I could just put on, probably just a bunch of people on here would.
Yes,
I could just
yeah.
put stuff on email, right?
No, just put out an email.
Yeah.
Okay.
For final draft. That's not too challenging.
I'm sorry. That's not a challenge. No, that's not.
That's not too challenging.
Judith, put your phone number in the chat because I know you want to talk to me. So I'll be happy to call you. And I think, let me see if there's any. There was something else. Yeah. These writing companies, you know, like roadmap writers and Inktip and stuff like that, are they worth charging you with whenever they charge you for something? Is that worth it, or is it a big waste of time?
I think Inktip is worth it. I think Deadline is worth it. You know, the real question is, does anything get you optioned? Does anything get sold? Does anything get made? Those are the big questions.
We haven't been using them. And
no.
I would reach out to the table and say, has anyone used this? What was your specific experience?
Yes.
I think you're going to get a range, but that may tell you more whether they're right specifically for you. It's never generic. It's like, what's right for you? It's sort of like having a therapist. You can find someone who's good for you and some people who are very destructive for you, and it depends on the individual.
Yeah. But again, always get clarity around what you actually are trying to do, what you actually want to have happen, and remove as many steps as possible. Because again, at the end of the day, it's about creating a body of work that is shared with an audience. Until your work gets out to an audience, it might as well not exist. Okay? And so that's because I'm very clear on that. That's how I can put together a 2-hour episode of Space Command in a matter of weeks, you know, because I'm clear on what I'm doing. Whereas if I was jumping through these endless hoops with these endless executives who are not, how can I explain this? I don't want to give power away to people who really don't care about me. Okay. And, you know, so I would much rather, you know, get on with what I'm here to do.
Right. It's important to see,
you know,
the conduit is the conduit. There's you as the artist.
Yes.
And then there's your audience who want to hear your story.
Yes.
And so it's really us and our audience, but then we have the conduit, and we have to always regard it as a conduit, not as a judge. But they have certain marketing needs.
Yeah.
But we sometimes give them too much emotional power.
Yes, usually.
As judges of who and what we are and what we're aiming for. And we get very casual about what the conduit is or who the conduit is. And it's important to keep that separate. There's you, there's your audience. That's the critical thing. And the conduit is just a mechanical thing. And so you just make sure that you find the right conduit for your voice, your specific voice will get you to the right audience.
You're going to write a book about that.
Yeah.
Yes. The green light in yourself. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And I have one acting question, just generically.
Sure.
I love asking people this. What do you look for most when actors come in and read?
Bribes.
No. I want to absolutely believe them.
Yes.
And so the way that I absolutely believe them is I understand that they're stepping into those shoes, and they're not giving me any sort of simplistic reading of, oh, I'm so angry and blah, 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 blah. It's like they step into real anger. They understand if that anger is based on hurt or what it's really based on.
Right.
And that they're just, I mean, they can always be adjusted, but that whatever adjustment they have, that I believe them completely, that they're owning the moment. And if you can come upon it where you completely own the moment, and you that's what the training is about.
Well,
that's the Olympic training
that
you have, where you can step into that moment and be totally there.
Right.
That's what we look for.
And let me elaborate on that. Here's several things that I like. The question I always ask is, do I believe it, and is it interesting? It has to be both. Because if it's just authentic but not interesting, well, okay, then But so interesting, authentic. Have they prepped? They don't need to be off book. But someone who just comes and tries to hit the ground running with no prep is problematical for me. Also, you want to get a sense that they can take adjustments, they can take direction. If they can't make an adjustment, I've seen it a million times where they come in with a scene prepped a certain way, and then you give them an adjustment and they do the scene the exact same way. and they'll never get cast if that's what they do, because then you know that they can't. They, you know, as Elaine was saying, craft allows them to turn on a dime, and that's very, very important.
And still own it. You know? And still own it.
And they don't need to look like I envisioned the character. They don't need to. I mean, I'm happy to be surprised if it brings a new dimension to what I wrote. Additionally, I always have to cast name actors for one reason and non-name actors for another. So, for instance, because the actors often complain that like they were the best in the audition, but some famous person got the role. I usually do both, and the reason is because when I cast a famous actor, it gives me something where I can promote my project more readily. When they bring a fan base to my project, it makes a lot of my job easier. Okay, plus the audience has an affection for that actor, whether it's Doug Jones or Bob Picardo or Mira Furlan or whomever. Bill Mummy is a great example. The other roles they've done are already brought to the equation, and that's very helpful. But I also like to cast people who haven't got a name, who aren't famous, and give them their break. But one has to be very careful when auditioning actors for that, because they have to really be able to deliver. Because if they're going to be in a scene with, you know, Michael Harney, for instance, who's on Orange is the New Black and Project Blue Book, they better damn well be up to snuff, because otherwise, you know, they're going to look like saps.
But we've had tremendous luck with casting people who don't have a name, where they really knock it out of the park.
Oh yeah, and we're so thrilled with our cast in Ripple Effect. I mean, it's so much fun. Like when we had the initial auditions, the Worldwide Talent Search for Captain Kemmer, there were two Captain Kemmers, Captain Jack Kemmer and his great grandson, Captain Matt Kemmer, because Space Command takes place over 180 years. And so Ethan McDowell got to play Jack Kemmer in for the first, 3 hours that we shot of the show. But poor Aaron Gaffey, who got cast, back like in the dawn of time, we would always call him poor Aaron Gaffey because he would never get in front of the camera to play Matt Kemmer. And finally in Ripple Effect, finally in Ripple Effect, he gets to put on the uniform and have a great scene with Francois Chow, who's the lead villain on The Expanse. So
Aaron Gaffey is just
he's
amazing.
great. He's great.
He's great. But Mark said we want it to be believable and interesting. And what makes a scene interesting is if you go to the deeper place.
Yes.
So it's not a question of being exotic in your approach, but if you go to a deeper personal place and draw on your personal experience, it's absolutely going to be interesting. If you're planted and you're seeking out your individual experience, and we all have we often don't find it interesting because it's ours and we've lived it, but it's generally really interesting.
Right.
And so it will, if the more you can draw on your own experience, the more interesting I think it's going to be.
Right. Great. Anything else?
I think that's it. Your artwork was mind-blowing.
Thanks. Well, and on that note, I'll show you another piece of work I did.
I don't believe it. I know you traced them, really.
No. And here's something I drew when I was 17. I'll show this. It's a little bigger.
You traced them? Let's see.
Let's see if we can get that.
What?
Yeah.
You gotta be kidding.
No, I drew this when I was 17.
What?
Let's see if I can get it framed up.
Hold it still, Mark, because the reflection changes everything.
Can you see it?
Now we can see it.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I drew this when I was
oh my
17.
God.
Yeah, so it's not bad. So, but
see, this is what happens when COVID-19 is keeping you in your apartment.
Yes.
You want to rearrange everything.
As I mentioned, we're going to be doing a book as a premium for the Space Command Kickstarter campaign. We're going to be doing in the next few weeks, where people can get a PDF of The Art of Mark Zicree, and I'm going to do a video where I'll show drawings all the way from when I was 5 until I was about 22, and in art school, and because all the time I was growing up, I knew I would either be a writer or an artist because I was writing and reading of science fiction voraciously, of course, and also drawing and painting and sculpting. And when I went to college, I was a painting, sculpture, and graphic arts major. But then I sold my first short story when I was 19 at the Clarion Writers Workshop, and that really decided it. But I was but I had gallery shows of my work, and I was appearing in national magazines, my artwork and my photography when I was a teenager. So okay, cool. So let's see. I guess.
Thank you very much.
You bet. So Judith Smiley, are you there, or are you just? Is that nope? I guess Judith's not there for now. So why don't we go to you, Craig? Oh, we already did you, Craig. So Mark Agushowitz.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, so my name is Mark. I am an editor. It's been an interesting week for me. I've been pretty busy editing for this new client. that I have. It's probably going to be a long-term relationship. We're kind of getting to know each other. So I'm kind of getting to know what they like and all that. So it's been kind of interesting. But for the last, it feels like forever, I've been stuck in this office that you guys look at every week. And things started to open up this week. And so I decided to step out of my office and go to my favorite bookstore, which is walking distance from here. It's called Dark Delicacies, where I picked up. Where's Mark? Tell him to look.
I'm here. There.
I picked this up.
Oh my God.
I wrote that book for those who don't know.
Yes, I know. So next time I see you, you'll have to sign it.
I will.
And then, of course, I've also been doing a lot of surfing on the internet, and I learned
He'll sign both names for you.
Sign Guillermo for me too.
I actually have a copy of the Guillermo signed to me. That took some doing.
So anyway, I was also surfing the internet because I've got a podcast that we're about to record our first episode for tomorrow, as Mark, you know. So I was doing some research for it, and I learned that it was a pretty small world because the 3 He-Man episodes that you wrote, my animation friend that I talk about every once in a while, he was a storyboard artist on all 3 of them.
Wow.
How fun.
So it's a small world. Anyway,
that's great.
That's the fun part of my week. I've been working with a graphics guy on the blood shots for my zombie film, so that's been kind of fun. Kind of seeing these 15 to 20 frame blood shots that are just literally going to be on the screen for a short period of time, but I think it's going to add a lot to the film. So that's been quite a lot of fun. And of course, like I said, we're going to be recording the first episode of our mine and Nathan's podcast tomorrow with Mark. And so I've been watching a lot of Guillermo del Toro and a lot of Night Gallery and stuff. So that's been a lot of fun. We're still kind of stuck on the name, but I think Nathan really wants to go. I'm going to run this by everyone, although he's kind of stuck on using it. We were thinking about calling it the Screen Forum.
Okay.
Because our log line is pretty much conversations about everything from the small screen to the big screen.
Okay, sure.
And if we bring books into the play, because I have a feeling Mark's going to bring Ray Bradbury in, people are now reading those on the Kindle screen.
Yes, they are.
So everything's screen related.
Yes.
And I like the idea. A friend of mine actually came up with it, of the screen forums. It's like we're inviting you into our forum.
Yes.
I would consider losing conversations about.
Well, that the log line, that I mean, it can be conversations or discussions. It could be, but that's not part of the title.
Yes.
Oh yeah, about a log line. I know. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
It's a podcast. What's it going to be? You know, recipes, just conversation.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yes.
I get that. So, but we're going to be recording the first one tomorrow, and I'm actually really looking forward to this because my last podcast, which did really, really well, was all about one subject. And this being about, with the people that we're going to be talking to, being about all sorts of subject matters regarding around film and TV and all of that, I just think it's going to maintain my interest a lot longer because, I mean, every week's going to be about something completely different.
Cool.
Whereas when we were doing Planet of the Apes, every week was about Planet of the Apes. And since we're kind of living it right now, I don't know if I want to talk too much about it anymore.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what's going on with me. I'm I've been really busy. Oh, I actually do have a question for you guys, and David Bartlett might have an answer for this as well because I've seen what his schedule is. Over the last couple of weeks, I've actually been really busy, and I'm trying to figure out how to better organize my time because at the end of the day, even though I spent every waking hour doing something, I feel like I haven't gotten anything done.
Right.
And I don't know if it's because of the way I'm organizing my time or...
Probably. Yeah. I mean, the way I do it is I start by making a list. Let me see if I have it right here. I have it right here. So what I do is, for instance, today, I wrote down, I'll show you this, for today, and then it's got what I do today, and it's divided by hour. So it's I worked on the book from 12:30 to 1. I did my Mr. Sci-Fi about SpaceX, the SpaceX launch from 1:30 to 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't always get everything done, but because I'm breaking it down by time and I use a timer, I'm able throughout the day to look through and say, okay, I've gotten this done, this done, this done, this done. But I always start with the most important thing. And I divide it up between, I think I've said before, I put dollar signs by what earns me money, and I put stars by what advances me creatively. So if something doesn't have a star or a dollar sign by it, I don't do it. and that helps a lot. But it's very important, and sometimes even doing something for 10 minutes rather than not at all is a very, very good idea, because you can actually get a lot done in 10 minutes if that's the only thing you're doing. And
how do you organize between, like, obviously dollar signs are always going to come first.
Yes.
Right? But then I have like my zombie film, and then I'm editing this this other film that I've taken over kind of the directing reins on, that we talked about last week.
Right.
And none of this is money oriented. And it's kind of like, well, they both kind of have a certain importance to me. How do I... It's like when I'm trying to figure out what to work on sometimes, and it's kind of like, well, I'll work on this, and then this doesn't get done, and I feel guilty because this didn't get done.
Well,
I can help you with that.
Yeah, but yeah, okay. But also the two ways that can help with that is divide your time, figure out how much time you have, and then just say, okay, I've got 2 hours to work on stuff. I'll do 1 hour on this, 1 hour on that. I mean, you just, that helps. But like, for instance, the book I'm writing now, Greenlighting Yourself, I have to write only like a page or two a day because I don't have time to write more of it. But if I write a page or two a day, in a few months, I'll have the book done. And, you know, but also beyond that, what you can do is just really figure out when you want this, whatever the task is, to be done by, like what date, and then you just divide it up into little pieces along the way to make sure it gets done by that date. So that's some of it. But you're never going to get done everything you want to get done.
I'm still waiting.
Sure, David, go for it.
Go ahead.
So, Mark, what I do, because I have a bunch of different fields I do too, like you do, is it's important to. This is a big subject, okay, but it's important to take all the things you want to get done in all of aspects of life and make sure that they're written down somewhere that you can see out of your head. That's the first thing, and then you want to prioritize certain sections that are more important than others for a certain period of time. I had a teacher that had 12 or 13 different careers he pursued all the time. He never pursued more than 1 or 2 of them at the same time because he couldn't get enough done to really justify being spread out over too many areas at once.
Right.
So you say, okay, take it for the day, let's say. You've got it for the day. In the morning, you spend a time, half an hour, 45 minutes. I spend 45 minutes every day getting emails, making lists, writing down what I want to get done, and I prioritize those things. So what's today's target? I really got to get this done, this done, this done, and write those down. And then the next most important thing that I've found is this whole concept of multitasking, okay? I think this is absolute mythology. And here's why. If you are taking one task and then flipping it to another task, you're not doing 2 tasks simultaneously. You're stopping one and starting the other. If you do that enough, nothing ever gets finished. The best way to use your time, from my experience, is you take one thing, you sit there and you don't take distractions and you get it done until it's finished. Obviously, if you're writing a screenplay and it's going to take you 3 or 4 months of full-time work to get something really spectacular, you can't just do that in one day, and you can't forsake everything else in your life.
Yes.
So obviously, there's a scheduling issue that's important there. If you've got to plan things for the day you can get done for that day, and then stick to it, and don't try to multitask. Now, it's so easy to get distracted, especially when you work at home.
Right.
Because there's all these other home things involved. I have 5 people working with me right now, in person or on the phone or whatever, in different capacities, different ways. Now I have to manage them too. So it's very challenging to get your things done because you spend most of your time helping them get their things done. But you're supposed to be helping you get your things done, but they aren't always. So again, it's the prioritizing is very important, but do not multitask. Take one thing and get it completely finished, and then it's off your plate. You don't have attention on it anymore, and you can go to the next thing.
Okay.
So, and then part 2 of that is you can't let things that don't get finished for the day languish into the next day. That's very illegal. So if you do that, you're going to be putting things off again and again and again, and things will never get finished. Then you start to get depressed because you don't feel like anything is accomplished because everything gets put back and nothing ever gets finished. So that's a double-edged sword there. So you've got to really focus on getting something done that you can get done for that day. And then you feel accomplished, and the next day you don't have it on your mind. And those are super important things, especially during this time now when we're all supposed to be working at home, but many people aren't used to doing that. And it's a very big challenge. I could easily go out and watch a movie or have some nice lunch or whatever it is. No,
don't do
it's
that.
a job. You got to put your time in.
Right.
Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Go ahead.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to say thank you for that because a lot of that applies to me. So a lot of that helps.
Yes. Well, we have a similar background in a similar environment. I understand what you're going through. And someone else comes and says, I've got to have you cut this thing for me. You've got to be able to put your thing on hold and put it on pause, not stopped, and focus on only their thing and stop their thing, even if you have to force them to, and then go back to your thing. And that's been my saving grace to get anything done. Otherwise, nothing gets done, including their thing.
Right. One thing I'll jump in and say about that is you also have to know what kind of person you are, because David likes to do one thing and get it done. I absolutely multitask all the time, and that's because I came up in television and I would frequently be working on.
That's not the case, Mark.
No, but
I gotta tell you, I'm more like David. I'm more like David. It's
Yes.
really hard for you to multitask, because what happens, I start working on something and then I get caught on it and I find myself working on it for extra hours. If I try to do two things at once,
Right.
I'm a mess.
Right.
I like to work on one thing at one at a time, which is why I'm really kind of connecting to what David's telling me.
Which is fine. Which is fine. The other thing I'd mention is there are two mistakes people frequently make. One is they end up putting a lot of time in on other people's projects where they're not getting paid or they're getting underpaid, and it just burns time. It's very important with everything you do to say, is this serving my dream or someone else's? And if it's serving someone else's dream and it's not paying the bills, you must say no. And the other thing is, most people say what their long-term goal is or their big dream is, but they're investing almost no time or energy toward it. And again, one of the wisest things I ever heard anyone say was, the way you know what people actually want versus what they say they want is by looking at what they're doing. And I absolutely agree with that. So if you really, really, really want some long-term goal, like to be a professional writer or to have your movies made or whatever it is, you absolutely have to commit to it, and absolutely every single day push that toward fruition, toward reality. And you know, because you will it into existence, just like you're doing with your zombie film. And
Right.
you know,
Right. That's why I had to say goodbye to the Talking Apes, because I didn't really feel like that was furthering anything that I wanted to do.
Yes.
But I came onto this other podcast because I remember what you said about this being a good way to meet people who
It's
can
great.
help further your career.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's why that switch happened, because I am totally in focus on that now. And that's why the zombie movie is happening. And my questions about film festivals last week happened, because I want to make sure that it all starts moving me forward as opposed to standing still. Because ever since my werewolf film, I feel like I've been in a standstill.
Right.
Ever since that crash. Matter of fact, Susan, who was asking about the producer situation, please listen to what Mark and Elaine said, because I went through what you were going through, and it killed the project and it killed the friendship.
Yes,
so you really got to nip it in the bud before that happens.
Yeah, it's a good job with all your friends just to jump to the lawsuit, because that really cuts away a lot of steps. So great. Well, 3 cheers, Mark. Yay! So now, as the theme of the evening is my artwork. This is a sculpture I did when I was 7. I was reading Greek mythology and very enamored of ancient Greece. So I actually sculpted this when I was 7 years old. So you can see very much in the ancient Greek theme. So that's kind of fun. So there you go. So another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yeah, we got a lot to catch up on here.
Okay, cool.
Nils Ververs Lubke.
Okay, great.
I hope I got that one right.
Yeah.
Says asks thoughts on 90s Sierra adventure game series Space Quest.
I don't really know much about that, because I'm not a gamer. You know, either I'm not either a role-playing game or a video game person, which probably is part of because of the generation I grew up in. You know, so I really don't have an opinion on that. So, is there another question, Adam? We can you know.
Yeah. We've got one from Scott Baker. No relation to your Space Command cameraman.
Right.
Who asks, do you have any inside information on the new production of Dune? Is it still going to happen, or will production be affected by the...
It's definitely going to happen. Denis Villeneuve is such an interesting director, and it has Timothy Chalamet, who's in every movie that you're seeing in the last few years. And it'll get made. It's a big science fiction property. I think he has a good shot at making a very interesting version. You know, I think the David Lynch version, which is very flawed, has a lot of interesting things in it. I rather like it for all of its shortcomings. I was going to be watching the Children of Dune miniseries because James McAvoy is in that. It was made, I guess, about 20 years ago, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. But yeah, I'm rooting for Denis Villeneuve. I mean, I liked The Arrival, and I really liked Blade Runner 2049. So you know, we'll see what happens. So so great. So getting back to Judith Smiley. Judith, you're there. Go for it.
Oh, it's hard to recognize you when you're not upside down.
You're right side up. This is progress.
Okay, I'm not upside down.
Yay.
I love Dune. I wish they would make it's so hard because it's so it's in your head.
Yes.
It's very hard, and everything they do, they can't get it out. Anyway, I'm Judith Smiley. Je suis de Montréal moi-même, where I was a child actress, and by the time I was 12, I had 3 TV shows and 2 radio shows. Wish I was doing that well now. And I went to New York, studied with Sandy Meisner, did Broadway, did off-Broadway, did Nonsense, which is the most fun you can have standing up. And now I'm working on my projects. I have a deadline on Sunday. I've been making Apocalyptic a little more relevant. It's done. My deadline is Sunday. I'm sending it out to 5 people.
Great.
So, and I've got a 90-second pitch for that. Now I'm starting to work on my my animation, which is my dragon movie, which Ed Asner loved. He said, if you have the money, I'll do it.
Wow.
But just after I got a table redone, I had breast cancer, so that put paid to that for a while. But I want to get back to it now. It's a good script. What else? Hang on. New York, Fiddler on the Roof. Oh, yeah. Next week, I have an appointment with a casting director.
Oh, wow.
My voice is back now from the coughing, from the pneumonia, and I'm going to be getting my voiceover demo done. But he actually knows my work. I was one of the top voiceover ladies in New York for 20 years. So he knows my work, and so we're going to have an appointment with him. My microphone is coming in. Thank you, Adam. Should be in next couple of days and get that done. What else? That's about it.
Okay, great.
That's about it.
Okay, well, 3 cheers. Yay. So another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes. Let's go to. Sorry. I wasn't paying attention. I was a bad boy. Oh no. Jap Perone, not a question, but a clean joke. What do you call a felon falling off of a building?
Okay.
A condescending.
Well, there you go. That's the best joke we've heard tonight.
But we got, here's a question from Thomas Robson.
Yes. Hi, Tom.
Didn't you say you were attached or part of Captain Power?
I developed that show for television. I spent a year working on it. When I came in, there were just the names of the characters, the fact that it was post-apocalyptic and what their weaponry was. And I worked up who they were, their backstories, their relationships, all that stuff. And then I insisted they hire Joe Straczynski to story edit it because he had never worked in live action, but they wanted to hire me, and I said, I'll back him, I'll guarantee him. And that led directly to Babylon 5 because those were the producers he ended up doing Babylon 5 with. So, and Ron Thornton, who did the VFX and was the model builder on that show, again, revolutionized visual effects on with Babylon 5. So, yeah. So I just recently came upon my 100-page Captain Power Bible, which has never been published or seen since I wrote it way back when. So that'll be another perk on the new crowdfunding campaign, that people can download the PDF of that because it's quite interesting. And if you ever watch Captain Power, it was a live-action science fiction show that Mattel paid for. And but if you ever want to see a very interesting in-joke or in-reference, Captain Power's father is Stuart Gordon Power because my father's name was Stuart Gordon Zickery. And so that's a very interesting little reference. So great, cool. So now I guess, Michelle, I guess it's your turn. Yay, hi. It's back on the wall.
Hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay. First, I would like to say that this is cranberry juice. I am not drinking the largest glass of wine ever seen. I'm dead sober here.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to fix it up. Fix it in post. What you were saying about actors coming in to audition and most casting people who have been doing, lots of meetings with actors and so forth, almost all of them say it's not about memorizing the lines. But what you said about an actor coming in without preparation, my feeling is if you come in without preparation, you're insulting the people that you're reading in for.
Yes.
If you're just saying, I don't give a damn about this, so you got to do something. You got to pay some attention.
Yes.
I have been ragging at Dave Edison and consider this a continuation of the ragging to split off my reel so that instead of bouncing back and forth between drama and comedy to show my extraordinarily wonderful range, instead of doing that I would then have a reel of straight stuff and a reel of comedy, which enough people have said was a really good idea. So with that in mind, I watched one of William Garcia's Zoom things where he had the casting people, Justin Hempe, H-E-M-P-E, she never did say the name, and Susan Paley Abramson, who proceeded to say that they wanted everything on one reel.
Oh, no.
I think what I'm going to wind up with is 3 reels. I'm going to have the old demo reel, and then I'll have the serious reel, and then I'll call it the drama reel, which sounds very la-di-da, and the drama reel and the comedy reel, and I'll wind up with 3 reels.
Be a squeaky wheel. Just send me an email. I keep getting distracted. There are other things that I'm doing. I can't remember what they are at the moment.
Yeah. Other than that, they also said they liked the idea that if somebody was doing a self-tape, that they like to see 2 versions, but they better be different from each other.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of into that very much because I really miss the idea of reading in a room with live human beings, which they said that they also miss. They much prefer to interview people live. And not that we're dead, but I can't do Mark Zicria slides. I really need to stop that. They're in my head, but sometimes now they come out. And I wound up doing something which this quarantine has never done to me by itself, but all the crap that's going on outside did it. I wound up glued to the damn television set, and a lot of time was spent calming down friends of mine and telling them that it was not necessary to buy a gun.
Oh my God.
And yeah, it's nice if you own one and you know how to use it, that's fine. But if you're saying, oh my God, they're coming, and you decide that this is now the time to learn how to shoot, then you got
No. Yeah.
Let's see, I've been calming down somebody in Palm Springs who is where they're not having, to the best of my knowledge, any sort of problem. Somebody in Atlanta who is 40 miles out of town and is certainly not having any problem. This would be like somebody in Simi Valley worrying about a protest in downtown. So
God.
I've been tamping down people all
Good.
week.
Right.
Good.
Hoping it's going to be over soon.
It will. Yes.
And the one thing I've been reminding everybody, for those of you who are not here for the Rodney King event, which some people say you're not supposed to call a riot. We all know it was a riot. Things are so different with police here now.
Yes.
They're so much better than they were in 1992. That's not saying everything's right and everything's fixed. It clearly isn't.
No.
But we're way ahead of where we were in 92. So,
Great.
Onward.
Cool. Great. Okay. 3 cheers. So Elaine has to deal with the dogs for a moment.
If you'll
but
excuse me, I just have to. Somebody's sniffing the carpet.
Yeah. So we better
I'll
go. Yeah. So continuing the art.
The carpet.
Yes. So continuing the art show. This is something I drew again when I was 17, which is this drawing, which is pretty nice. I like this. And it's just like of a sharecropper. And so okay, cool. So another Mr. Sci-Fi question.
Yes, our next question is from Captain Mark Red Angel, who asks, do you have hope the new Pike series could revive some aspects of classic Trek currently missing from the current Trek series?
Possibly. I mean, when they introduced Captain Pike and Spock and all that stuff, and the Enterprise, it was interesting. I liked that, particularly when they did a coming attraction saying, like, when they had, like, before this episode, and then they had clips from the menagerie. I thought that was the cage. I thought that was great. We'll see. They're also going to theoretically do the Jerry Ryan, freebooter one as well as 7 of 9. We'll see. Who knows? I mean, okay, good. I mean, and if Star Trek ever came to me and said, hey, you want to be an executive producer on one of these, I'd say yes. I think it'd be an interesting thing to see if I could make it work. I think I could. I mean, I certainly did that with Sliders and, and various other shows. So, okay, great. Thanks. But that's, yeah. So let's see. So now I think Shy and Billy, I guess you're in New Orleans. So go for it.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, I guess there's not really much from us right now. I mean, we just got finished. We just wrapped the quarantine version of South of Sanity, and it was 2.5 weeks. Not nearly as long as what you're doing, but I thought I was gonna go crazy because I was doing everything, like all the paperwork for SAG, all the timesheets. Oh my gosh! And so I seriously started questioning. I was like, do I like this anymore? This is awful.
Yeah.
I mean, and I love the writing process and I love the behind the scenes. And then it got to my acting towards the end of because I always put myself last because other people were other places, And by the time it got to me, I was like, oh God, I'm so tired. I'm just exhausted.
Yes. Wow.
So.
And not to mention, she, as with Judith, is currently in recovery from breast cancer, coming back from major surgeries and all kinds of shit.
Wow.
So to have taken on this was crazy. She doesn't give herself enough credit.
Wow. Well, I mean, the main thing with this time, regardless if one is recovering from surgery, is to remind ourselves to be kind to ourselves. We are all under stress. We are all under pressure, whether or not our neighborhoods are burning like ours, and their military vehicles in the streets and all that. I mean, we were there with the crowd when the cop cars were burning and the Starbucks just down the street got burnt. And, fortunately I'm with Elaine and she's, strong. She was on the Poor People's March in Washington when the army started killing people. And so I just, see if she's calm and then I'm calm. So, but is there anything you guys need?
I guess the only thing really I'm thinking about right now is the marketing aspects. And really, marketing is just all a gamble, right? I mean, pretty much trying to get the word out that the show's airing and stuff.
Yes. The thing that's great now is that people are stuck at home and they're looking for entertainment. So, all of the actors are stuck at home and and everyone else is stuck at home. So this is a great moment of opportunity to try to get audience. I mean, for instance, as I said, in about like 3 weeks and change, we got 500,000 views on the first hour of Space Command, and and I was able to get this astonishing cast for the new episode. So I think you basically what you have to write down is like, what do I want to accomplish, and who do I want to reach, and then you start targeting very specifically, because again, most people make the mistake of just kind of spreading a wide net and not quite knowing what they want to have happen. The more specificity, the better, but also look at successful models. I mean, see who's actually succeeding at what you want to do. And now, again, those people are stuck at home too, so you can send them an instant message or whatever, and they might actually respond. It's...
Sorry, so you're saying to like message people that we already currently know?
No. Okay. What I'm saying is, you write down on a piece of paper, what do I want to, if everything went great, what would this actually accomplish? What do I want it to do? What do I want it to lead to? Who do I want to reach, right? Then you say, well, who has succeeded at that? Then, and it's not people you know, you say, who has succeeded at that? Maybe there's a web series that led to a network deal with somebody or whatever. And then you say, okay, well, let's look at their social media and see if there's a way to reach them, to contact them. And like, for instance, when I decided, I wanted for a long time to cast one of the leads in The Expanse in Space Command, but even though several friends of mine run that show, I haven't met those actors. I met them, but I don't know them. But then I remembered that Francois Chow, I had this memory that he'd starred in one of Elaine's plays about 25 years ago, but I didn't know how to reach him. So I started, and this is a good idea for always when you want to start, particularly with actors, just go to theirname.com. So in other words, if it's Francois Chow, it's francoischow.com, because many actors have their own websites, and many actors, where it says contact, it goes directly to them if they're not Brad Pitt or whomever. So I emailed him that way, and he responded, and now he's in Space Command. So it's like, so it enormously speeds things up when you get advice from people who know what they're doing, and and usually people don't mind sharing what they did that worked, and you'd be surprised at what works if you're just clear on what you want and get advice from people who've gotten that, because don't ask them to open doors for you, don't ask them to do work for you, don't ask them to read your work or look at your work. If they want to, that's fine, but make it super easy for them to just advise you. And and then it's great. And that's why I've chosen the mentors I've chosen, because it's like, okay. And sometimes I do things that they've done that work, and other times I'm on my own path, and I have to kind of create a sort of a Frankenstein monster of advisors, to get it to take me where I want to go. But specificity is the most important thing, because I know so many people who just have no clue as to how to get the word out on what they're doing. Like, it was so interesting because Mr. Sci-Fi, my friend Glenn Mazzaro, who ran Walking Dead, he advised me to start my own science fiction channel, which I did, and it's worked fabulously, and I've had millions of views. And but with the first hour of Space Command, I wanted to get to a larger audience, because I was only getting like a few thousand views on that first hour. So I thought, well, what title can I use that will get a larger audience? And I called, because so many of the people working on Space Command are alumni of the various Star Trek series, including myself, I simply said, the greatest Star Trek series you're not watching, as the title. And that got me 500,000 views in 3 weeks, and 97% thumbs up. So I was taking a risk of pissing people off, but that actually worked. A lot of stuff I try is trial and error. And then once I see what works, then I just do more of that. So that's some of it. Any other questions?
Geez, yeah, I don't know. We have been commenting that it's your advice here has been spot on. Yeah. I think.
Well, I try
in all
not,
aspects, and it's really great. The passion behind it has to be true.
Yes.
People can smell bullshit from 10 miles away.
Yes, but that's why you close your window.
Yeah, right.
Frankly, but
I guess the question I have left, I don't know about but is being a musician and voice actor and different things. Are there, for anyone involved, I know Adam is involved in that world, and Mark has his podcast and things. Have been kind of dabbling in. I got a lot of irons and a lot of fires, and maybe too many.
Yes.
Stretching myself a little too thin and trying to put a lot of things. My question being now, for marketing purposes and kind of pushing things out there with the state of things, I've second guessed myself a little bit on getting on promoting things in any ways with the state of the world and all these heavy things that are happening. I kind of feel bad. Almost bad about, like, hey, I have this thing going on, do this and that, when there are like real serious things happening in the world.
Yeah.
And I have decided to put the brakes on any kind of push on things for like a month by month thing to see when do things not I don't want to say lighten up, because they shouldn't lighten up, but when can I be pushing advertising over the fact that the world is trying to make positive changes that it needs.
Here's the way you do it. First of all, the way you know if you have too many irons in the fire is if nothing is getting finished. If nothing is getting to the finish line, then you have too many irons in the fire, right? But if some of them are actually succeeding, then that's fine. Again, it gets back to whether you're a multitasking kind of person. I mean, right now I'm working on a new book that I've already sold. I'm working on the Showrunners Network, where I'm creating 6 shows with various partners, and I'm doing Space Command. And I'm doing it all. I mean, it's like, and with Space Command, it's multiple hours, multiple episodes of Space Command simultaneously. But that's because I have a team. But there are only 4 reasons you as a creative artist should do anything. Okay, and this is really important. 1, if it advances you creatively. Okay. 2, if it brings you money. 3, if it publicizes you. And 4, if you're learning something from someone. Okay, those are the only 4 reasons to do anything in your creative life. Okay, now but you have to be clear on what any action is actually doing. Most people will take actions that they're not clear on what the end goal is, and so they're wasting their time and their energy. I mean, actors send out postcards endlessly, whether or not it's ever gotten them work. So many people waste their time doing things that don't work, and so. If you just boil down to those 4 very specific things, like for instance, Mr. Sci-Fi is great because I can use it to publicize myself. I can use it to bring in money. I can use it to create something very easy that's artistic for me. I mean, it serves, and I learn from it because I'm learning how to do it, and so it serves. But there's many things I'm not doing because I don't need to, and that frees up my day and it frees up my time. It's also very important to know how much you need to earn to survive, and that's why we keep our overhead low. So it's sort of like, how much do I need to earn monthly? How much do I need to earn weekly? How much do I need to learn hourly and daily? You break it down so you're clear. And then, because again, if you're vague, then you're always running, after some elusive target that, and you don't want to do that because again, it's exhausting and dispiriting. So, but in terms of promoting your work and promoting your art, now is a perfect time to do it, as long as you do it mindful of what's happening now. So for instance, with Space Command, I saw this as an enormous opportunity because all the actors were at home. So Elaine and I sat down, wrote a script within a week, and we've been refining it and changing and adding to it over these last few weeks. But I didn't see this as any moment to stop because there was great opportunity to be had. People want to find solutions under the pressure, but they also want to find entertainment. And so that gives us a huge amount of opportunity. We now have a window to the world, and the fact we're stuck at home is sort of irrelevant because thanks to Zoom, thanks to the internet, we can reach everyone everywhere. And so the challenge is, how can I utilize this? And that's, why we're even doing this, because it's sort of like, this allows us to help each other, and that's of service, and it's also spiritually refreshing, so that's what I would say to that. So, but thanks. Yay, guys. Yay. Cheers.
We'd like to also add quickly that we're here through Dave Edison.
Yay, Dave.
We've ever given him the full props. We love him dearly. He's a fantastic guy. He's editing Shaw's show.
Wow.
South of Sanity as well. And so we've never
as time permits.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
yeah, right.
He edited the last one,
fantastic.
and it turned out amazing.
Yeah.
So.
Everyone used Dave.
Well, I revised the edit. You already had a pretty good edit.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
You did a lot.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad to be here, and we have taken every week that we've been able to be here has been hugely beneficial to us. So
Great.
This is a really good roundtable, and we appreciate it. And
Great. Well, thanks so much, guys.
Sure.
And again, if Dave weren't an atheist, I'd say he's a gift from heaven. So
well, I think that's part of the reason why we're such good friends. We share that.
Yes, exactly.
And that's good. We would be gifts from heaven.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah.
I might be a gift from hell. I don't know.
Well, and I just thought of a funny thing that you can say, Dave, sometime, which is they say there are no atheists in foxholes. And the real answer is, well, there are atheists in foxholes, and their chance of surviving is every bit as good as the people who believe in God.
Yes. Thank you. Light that fire. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So, so Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question? Oh, by the way, continuing the art show theme.
Yes.
This is another drawing I did when I was a teenager. One of my favorite movies is a movie that H.G. Wells wrote that was made in 1936 called Things to Come, and it starred Raymond Massey. And so this is my portrait of Raymond Massey from that movie. So there you can see it. So it's pretty neat there. Yeah, so cool. Okay, great. So go ahead, Mr. Sci-Fi.
All right. Our next question is from Ziggy, who asks, when can we get the first issue of the comic?
We're working on getting the Space Command store working better, because right now if you go on Mr. Sci-Fi, you can buy T-shirts and phone cases, Space Command phone cases, and various and sundry. But the comic book, we do want it to be available to people. So so in the next few weeks, I think we'll get the store up and running where people can order it and get it.
I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm working on that too. So
good.
I'll get right on it, sir.
Good. But the first issue is gorgeous. It has a cut.
That's the story. There is that it's going to premiere at the convention.
Great.
Yes.
Terrific.
That's the plan.
But
That's what we're working.
But it has an amazing front cover by William Stout and back cover by Ian McCaig, and the interior artwork is by Tahani Farr, which is spectacular. And it's just a treasure. I'm thrilled with it. And the pages that Tahani is drawing now for issue 2 are just phenomenal. Sure, she's a huge talent. So I'm very lucky that I met her and had the smarts to hire her. So
I meant that the store is premiering, not just the comic book.
Yes. Because we have a ton of Space Command products that are actually available, patches and posters and models of the Paladin and all sorts of stuff that just aren't readily available. So we're going to be rectifying that. So let's see who has an editor, and I'm looking at people's faces. Satya Vanil, how about you?
Oh, Vani, it's 2 eyes. Hi.
Vani, hi.
Hi, Mark. Good to see you.
Yes.
It's been a while.
Yes.
I'm glad you still remember me. For those that don't know me, I am Satya Vani. I'm an actress and a comedian. I'm half Filipino, half Indian. My dad always wanted a boy. My mom wanted a girl. So I competed in a beauty contest to get my validation. And I won Mr. Manila.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding. I actually did win a beauty contest. I grew up in the Middle East. I speak conversational Hindi, Arabic, and Taglish. That's Tagalog with English. I've been trying to make my website like a lot of people here. So I'll just post it in the chat because it's a bit long right now till I transfer my domain from my old website to my new website, and I have to figure that out. What's keeping me busy? I've been submitted to all these casting directors that are constantly on their Instagram live and all these challenges. So that's been really great as a workout gym thing. Just before COVID hit, I had the opportunity to be with one of the top commercial agencies wanted to see me, and they scheduled a meeting to see them, and then they canceled it the day off because it was announced that we were on lockdown. So they said to reach out after a few weeks, and I did that. And they said, "I'm sorry, we can't see you right now. We'll figure this out." So my question is, I reached out to them in May because that's what they said to do, and they didn't respond back. So now I'm trying to figure out what else I could do, because they're always posting on their Instagram stories of all their clients who are booking auditions, who are going out to auditions. So they're pretty active. They're finding ways to give their actors jobs.
Great.
So I'm not sure how to reach out again, or what I could do.
Part of it, I think,
and they don't answer.
The way is to humanize it as much as possible, and to say, "Hi, I know that a lot of took my call back, just checking in again. I realize things are pretty goony right now, but as for me," and then tell them an interesting story. A touching, interesting story of a friend or yourself saying, I understand things are difficult right now. In fact, when I encountered so-and-so, and I understand this. So what I would always do when I have to get back with somebody over and over, which you do, I would always have something funny or touching, brief, like three or four sentences, to continue humanizing it and to touch them as a person. And so the more that you can, because Otherwise, it's like it's the nagging voice, right? So whether you're an actor or a writer, whatever you are, just say, it's wonderful. I hear that you're booking a lot of your people. You're in action that really keeps things alive. It brings to mind blah blah blah, and something personal and again either touching or funny. And if whenever they hear from you, it's not just the ask, but it's a human touch, that does seem to help quite a bit.
That helps a lot, because also a top comedy manager reached out to me just as soon as COVID hit, and he was interested in managing me, and he said to call him anytime, and I took it literally like that. So I emailed him once a month. And then now he says he doesn't have time for that. He said we'll reconnect after COVID, and I'm like, oh no, I don't know how to keep in touch, because he said I could keep in touch. He gave me a cell phone number, everything.
Right.
But I didn't call him until like 2 months after he called me. So I must have done something wrong. I don't know what to do.
No, I mean, here's the thing. You always have to think about what they need and how they can see you as of benefit to them. I don't believe in keeping regular contact with people where how can I explain this? It's sort of like, if there's no connection, if there's no reason to be contacting, it's like new news where they might see possibility in you can be very useful. So for instance, if you were in a short that wins a film festival, if you were interviewed by some big thing, some big newspaper or video or podcast or whatever, I always contact my people when I got new news, like, hey, I just made this new Space Command episode with all these stars, or hey, I'm on Coast to Coast tomorrow night, or whatever. It's like I always look for what's going to be of interest to them, rather than just like, hey, I'm still here, are you still there? It's like,
even if you come upon the best joke you've ever encountered, since he's a comedy guy,
like that one about throwing a guy off a building.
So no, but if you think of something that strikes you that has actually happened, or something that's extremely funny, just say, oh, you're a comedy guy, I thought you might appreciate, I came upon, I heard this bit of conversation which brings to mind blah blah. Anyway, whenever you have the time, I'm glad to talk to you.
Right. But again,
so again, picture yourself. I mean, generally the best way to treat somebody you're trying to get in touch with is you put yourself in their shoes. Okay.
Right.
You say, I'm getting a call from dozens and dozens of people who are desperate because of COVID.
Right.
How do I differentiate?
Right.
And it's because you do the human thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, yes. But the main thing is, what do you want and how do you get it? That's always the question in the professional sphere. And it's like, again, people either will be your advocates, your representatives, your allies, your collaborators, and if they're not willing to be, or your mentors, if they're not willing to be any of those things, then you don't need to be in touch with them. Okay. And if you do want them to serve one of those purposes, you have to mount a campaign to figure out how to make that work. One of the things I often say at the table, the in-person table meetings, is if you want a terrific agent or manager, do a podcast interviewing agents and managers, or do a documentary, or do a series of articles, or write a book. You need to be interviewing them. You need to change the conversation so it isn't just, hey, I'd like you to represent me and get me work. That's what everyone is saying. I remember one time an actor said to me, when should I tell you that I'm looking for a role and I'd appreciate your casting me? I said to them, you don't have to tell me. It's obvious you're an actor. Right? And so again, I cast two kinds of people. I cast famous people whose work I admire already, and people I don't know, or who I do know but who are not famous. And so there's three categories. There's people who are famous that I cast that I have access to. There are people who I like, who I know in my personal world, that I cast as roles, reveal themselves. And then I have waiters. And waiters. I cast a lot of waiters. And but also because they're here in LA, everyone is either a writer or an actor if they're a waiter. But I also have worldwide talent searches for Space Command, where people anywhere in the world can audition, because I really like that idea. I think it's really fun. And we've cast many actors. We've cast many actors that way. But again, the reason I wrote The Twilight Zone Companion I started that book when I was 21, was because it allowed me to have conversations with successful actors, writers, producers, and directors, where if I just called and said, hey, I'd like your advice, that they wouldn't have returned my call. Whereas if I'm doing a book about something they worked on and are very proud of, that was a reason to meet me and to talk to me. And many of them became friends and mentors. So, and the book is still in print and it's earned me, over $1 million. So, so that's some of it. So anything else?
Yeah, there's a lot of self-taping going on, and I see a lot of actors and everyone having different equipment.
Yes.
And I'm a little overwhelmed with the different options because I'm like, oh, maybe I could get that or that. And I'm just curious if anyone has input on like ring lights or fill lights. Everyone has like their own opinion of what they prefer.
Yes.
And also backdrop like of different companies or brands. I mean, I've been Googling, but the more I Google, the more I'm getting lost.
Yes.
There's so much out there.
Remember that the lighting isn't super important. The sound is important. You have to have a good mic.
Okay.
The main thing is to deliver a really good performance. And again, stay with basics. Don't drive yourself crazy. Because like, for instance, when we watch auditions, again, it's like, do I believe this person? Are they interesting? In fact, in Space Command, there's one actress we just cast from a worldwide talent search where ultimately she did a number of takes after we hired her, we chose her, but ultimately the take we used was her audition because she was just great. And it's like, but again, make it professional, but don't drive yourself crazy. I mean,
is there any of the people we have today, does anybody have any advice as to good basic simple lighting, good basic simple sound? Any input here?
I have a friend who does quite a bit of these, and she just uses her iPhone.
Yeah.
As long as it's exactly what Mark just said, and she gets a lot of work.
Yes.
It's basically what Mark just said. As long as it's lit well,
yes,
so that they can see you.
Yes.
It's all about the performance because they don't look at you as a filmmaker; they're looking at you as an actor.
Right. And the iPhone, but if you use an iPhone, get an iPhone 11 because it's a 4K camera. It's really good. That's what I use.
Turn it horizontally.
Horizontal, yeah. But that's what I use for Mr. Sci-Fi, and that's fine. Whereas with Space Command, we shoot that on a red, and etc. So, but yeah.
Although the Mr. Sci-Fi videos you send me, you're shooting at HD, not 4K.
Well, yeah. So you might want to advise me at some point.
Yeah. I didn't know you were trying to do that. We may need to talk, but
sure.
For an audition, you don't even need to.
No.
Obviously, go to 4K. But,
no.
It's good to have it if you want a really great camera.
Yes, but again, this speaks to knowing what's important in what you're doing, because if your acting is shitty, it doesn't matter if you're in 3D IMAX.
And the basics of lighting, basically, you want to have a light in front of you. It can be just a desk lamp, any light source you got.
Yes.
Just that it's in front of you, not behind you.
Yes.
And then make sure you're far enough away from the wall, and it should be either a wall or a curtain or something plain that isn't too busy in the background, because you don't want them distracted by your background per se.
Mm-hmm.
So either a blank wall or like I have a green screen behind me, and but that's part of a lighting kit that my brother got me for Christmas a few years ago.
Cool.
So,
that's great.
And if you don't have a green screen, an option that will often work is if you have a large screen, flat screen. If you punch up the one of the YouTube videos that's just green, just a green screen, you can turn your flat screen into a green screen if it's large enough to cover you.
Yes.
Just stay far enough away from it so that the TV itself doesn't project green onto you, because that will disappear when you turn it off.
Yeah.
But you can also turn it into any color.
Yes.
You just want it to be plain white, fine. You want it to be black, gray, whatever you like. You've got it right behind you if it's large enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other reason to not be too close. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
We were talking over each other. Go ahead.
The other reason to not be too close to your background is because you'll cast shadows, and the less again, you don't want anything in the background distracting from you.
Yes. Great. Terrific. So
the thing about, I was going to talk about ring lights for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So the ring lights are tricky. There's two reasons they're tricky. One is that there's something that cell phones do that's very, very useful that a lot of people don't know about. It's called the autofocus and the auto exposure lock. If you were with someone and you're on the screen and they tap on your face and hold their finger on the face, it will flash a little box and make it lock. That means if you like something darker or lighter, the camera won't change its exposure, which is what you want. The ring lights can be very intense. If it's too close to your face around the camera, it's going to blast it out. So you have to be careful about the ring lights, especially the bigger ones. So if you have that farther away or closer, if you lock the auto exposure first and then light against that, you'll be a lot better off.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yay.
You guys recommend, I think the ring lights that have options of color changes are beneficial as well, right?
It depends on what color temperature you have the camera set on. That's a little bit more advanced. But if you lock that off too, you can actually see what it looks like and decide if you like it.
Right.
Yeah. When we were shooting, one of the girls who was shooting, because we all have ring lights, and a lot of us have ring lights and stuff, but hers I thought was one of the best, and it was called Ubeesize, Ubeesise. I mean Size. It was like by far probably the best ring light that anyone was using.
Great. Cool.
Thank you.
Great. 3 cheers. Yay. So
and I'll chime in briefly about stand-up. I was a stand-up for 22 years until everybody decided, well, that's enough of that. But if you want to check out a couple of books, a real short one, it's a Kindle single, so it's only $1 or $2, that my friend Fred Stoller wrote about the time he was on the Young Comedian special on HBO, and a lot of the managers and the agents who contacted people afterwards. Now, granted, it was about 30 years ago, but some things never changed. Anyway, Fred Stoller's Kindle single is called 5 Minutes to Kill. And he also has a book, if anybody wants to read a funny and sometimes depressing book about being guest stars on sitcoms.
Yes.
He has a book about all the sitcoms that he was on called Maybe We'll Have You Back.
That's fun. That's
Thank
fun.
you.
Yay. 3 cheers.
Thank you so much.
Now continuing the Mark Zickery art show for a moment. This is something I drew when I was around 20 and at UCLA. The job board had an opening for a movie that was in pre-production that was looking for someone who could draw in the Flash Gordon style. So I took that very literally. And there was an old comic strip called Flash Gordon drawn by Alex Raymond, and the villain in that was Ming the Merciless. So I drew this, and this includes the pen and ink version that I drew, and then the color version that I painted, a photo of the color version that I painted, so you can kind of see that. And I sent that in, and I didn't get the job, but they hired a guy named Ralph McQuarrie, and the movie was Star Wars. So, so I don't feel too bad about losing out to Ralph McQuarrie because he was a genius, and his artwork and design on Star Wars was spectacular.
Oh, Adam, I just got an email from
Akira. He can't find the Zoom email, so you might want to.
He's here.
He's here. Yeah, he's right there, Elaine.
Oh, there you are.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
So okay, Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes, our next question. We have another one from Scott Baker.
Great.
Saying, speaking of canon, what is your strategy to keep all story threads kosher with the canon of Space Command?
Well, we'll
have
have
a kind of tribunal to keep things straight, or is technology involved?
Well, several things. First of all, Scott, I just should mention that you must undoubtedly be the antimatter Scott Baker, so never meet our Scott Baker, because if you shake hands, the universe will be destroyed. But in terms of keeping things kosher, Elaine and I are both Jewish, and so I think that will help. But also, bad joke. In terms of keeping canon straight, we have lengthy notes, and we know exactly sort of where the story goes. And
well, what's going to happen, by the way, thanks to Brian McClure, is when we do Ripple Effect, he's doing a chart of relationships, time frames.
Yeah, like a genealogical chart of all the families.
So that will be downloadable, and he's making it super cool. I did a rough little scribble version on a piece of paper, and he's making it into an actual thing.
Yes.
That will be cool. And so that will be downloadable as soon as Ripple Effects comes out.
Cool. Great. Excellent. So let's see who, I guess, Mike and Jim. Go for it, Mike. Hi, Mike.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. Hi, everybody. Mike Lopez. My background, I'm a former cop turned filmmaker.
Cool.
If you have any, because I've been asked a lot of questions recently about police procedure and what happened and stuff like that. So if you get a question, let me know. Maybe I can help you with that. It's been a really good lockdown for me. I've been really creative. I'm in the middle of a novella that I'm writing.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it. The beta readers that I've shown my first one to have been really giving me some really positive feedback. Secondly of all, I've entered a lot of film festivals with some of the short films that I've written.
Great.
So yeah, so I'm just waiting right now to hear from them and see how far I can go with it. I've submitted to festivals in Europe, so if something happens there, I will be an internationally acclaimed filmmaker.
Yay.
I like that title. And then right now, what I'm really proud of is I just completed and uploaded a short film that I shot with Jim Metropole.
Mm-hmm.
It's called The Last Soldier.
Great.
And it's a 4-minute video in which he's a old veteran and he discovers that he's the last member of his combat unit. And it's a really touching story. I've gotten a lot of really positive feedback about it too. And I've been encouraged to enter this also into film festivals.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, I couldn't just sit around. I had to do something. And I keep getting all these links to all of these films and web series that people are doing. And they're all doing it online, kind of a thing, like everybody's talking online. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do another one. So I talked to Jim. I wrote a very short script and just did it. And so it's up on my YouTube page and also my Logos Entertainment Facebook page. I also did I sent it out to the table too. So if you didn't get it, you can always go to my YouTube page.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing about the film, though, is I found it very difficult having to act and film myself at the same time. That is really, I don't know how I did it. It took me about 15 takes to get one that was just right, because you gotta set the camera up and then sit down and make sure it's where your camera's supposed to be focused on. And you gotta do it 3 or 4 times because it doesn't always work out right. And eventually you get the sweet shot and then you shoot it. So it was really good. I was really happy with it.
Cool.
Other than that, right now I'm just doing some writing. I'm writing in, like I said, another novella. I'm thinking of another short film to shoot, and I'm going to send out some more of my short films to some festivals, and we'll see what happens.
Great.
Good for you.
This lockdown has really turned out to be a plus for me creatively.
Yes, good.
Great, that's wonderful.
Good.
Yay.
Well, 3 cheers, Mike. Yay. 3 cheers. And then again, continuing the Mark Zickery art show. This is the mask that I designed and made when I was 17 of a creature. So there's that, so you guys can see it. So one way or another, that's going to end up in Space Command. So I was very inspired by the Jean Cocteau Beauty and the Beast. So pretty fun. So, okay, so continuing on. So Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yeah, our next question, apparently one I missed because it wasn't written as a question, from I Am Korung, who says, I honestly want to know why sci-fi writers ignore the VA belts. I'm assuming he's talking about the Van Allen radiation belts.
Well, I think Irwin Allen pretty much took care of that in the Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea movie when it caught on fire. So I think, I don't know. I just, the universe is filled with so many amazing things, and they're discovering more and more and more of them, like the auroras on Jupiter and so forth. I mean, it's just, you can't deal with all of it. So you deal with what you can. So that's, but the Van Allen belt is certainly interesting. I don't, not to badmouth the Van Allen belt.
So it's open for you.
Yes, yeah, go for it.
Go for
it. So next, I guess, is Thane Allison.
There we go.
Okay,
there we go. Great.
Hi, Thane Allison, actor, writer, sometimes filmmaker.
Cool.
I'm finding this period a lot of fun. I've been working at home since 1993 on my various life pursuits, so I have a pretty good discipline about working from home. Plus,
Great.
I don't have any distractions like children, wives, or or friends. Just a cat, and as Mark pointed out, the cat will eat my ears off one day. So I've been on guard with that. I wear the headphones a lot. Last night with We Make Movies, I shared a video piece that I've been playing with for a while, and after looking at it with 35 other folks and getting feedback and comment, I think it's time to just put it to rest and say, that was a nice try, let's do something else. Sometimes it's important to know when to quit.
Yeah.
And it was a good piece, but technologically trying to make it into today's format just didn't work. And so I learned a lot about some editing tricks and so on, and learning to listen to other people that are far more skilled at filmmaking than I am.
Great.
I've been refining my solo show, Raising Kids, It Ain't Easy. And last Sunday night, I decided it's time to put the first 5 or 8 minutes on recording. And that was a good experience. Learning the ins and outs of Zoom for one person on the call and the options for recording and so on was a little tricky. And by the time I got that sort of sorted out, I was too tired to really perform well. But it gave me a lot of insights into the process of self-taping yourself with Zoom. And I understand that some people are actually doing their self-tape auditions now with Zoom, where you start a meeting on your own, or you host a meeting on your own, and you're the only person there, and then you put it in so that you fill up the screen. And of course, you got to deal with the background. And one nice little thing about dealing with that is, I have my beginning scene is I'm coming into a coffee shop and ordering coffee from the barista. So I turned around, so you saw the back of my head, and on the screen, I had a picture of barista and coffee making. And then when I moved away, then I could have that behind me. And so it was kind of like having a little stage behind me, and just learning some of those little tricks was good.
Cool.
Today I got asked about voicing some poetry, and I resurrected 3 of my poems that have been on YouTube and kind of got lost in the indexes here, and was able to find them and send them off to the casting person that was interested. And so that's a possibility. Looking at a voiceover class, I've had several voiceover classes in the past and done several things. Mostly I do narrative type things. Once upon a time in a place far, far away where big animals come and eat you up. And I think that's called Hollywood. But anyway, it's it's time to get back to that. I have the equipment, and with a little trip to Harbor Freight and pick up some of their moving blankets, which they're 6x8 for $5, and they're thick pads. So if you have outside noise like the lawnmower is always coming around at the wrong time or whatever, they really do. And then a little creativity with PVC pipe and some elbows and whatever. And somebody was Satya.
Yeah.
I'll get that name right yet. I have a background stand that I made out of PVC pipe. Cost me about $10, plus $7 worth of gray curtains that I got from Big Lots. I'd be glad to send you some pictures, and I do have the implement for cutting the pipe. But you'll have to cut it, because in the meantime, I don't know if you can see the brace. After this is my 80th day in quarantine, essentially without human interaction, and except through Zoom, and 76 days of writing for 8 minutes every morning. I've developed carpal tunnel syndrome.
Oh no! Jesus.
I write much faster when I write with pen and paper, although the majority of my writing, when I don't have the 8-minute time crunch to use the typewriter. Back in the olden days, I used to write somewhere between 20 and 30 legal-sized pages of yellow line paper when I was writing reports or projects or so on. So it seemed like 8 minutes a day. That's essentially one page. The problem is nobody else can read it, and now with the brace, I can't even read it. So we're moving on. Looks like things are settling down in terms of the violence, which we all are very saddened by. But the underlying message, which is also very sad, I think is important to see if we can help develop a new paradigm for going forward. And what my role in that is, I'm never quite sure. I've spent my life fighting this battle from my side of the equation, including making movies, including teaching classes in economics of poverty, discrimination, and race, where I had various guest speakers, and trying after the 92 riots, I was working on a project that we were able to morph into looking at the access to healthcare in what we called the riot zone. And sure enough, we could show statistically that anybody needing healthcare in the riot zone took 30 minutes longer to get to a hospital than people who lived outside the riot zone. An example of what an economist contributes to the debate. The problem is the decision makers just tend to ignore us. We've seen doctors ignored by the president in recent times about the COVID virus, and it's not up to economists to make the policy decisions, only to provide the information. And too frequently we see the result, and the whole disparity in income equality is an area that I spent a lot of time studying and publishing in. And here we are with very much a world we've created here that looks like the third world countries where I used to work, trying to reduce the gap. And and I knew we were becoming a third world country when we started to have to carry on bags to the grocery store. So there you are.
Well, one thing I'll add to that, Thane, and I appreciate what you were saying. I have found the last few days incredibly heartening And I'll tell you exactly why. Because I was here for both the Watts riots in the 60s and the uprising in the 90s, and the Rodney King uprising. And those were very dark days. But what's different now is that people in every state, people in other countries came out of their COVID isolation, and in the thousands, if not the hundreds of thousands, took to the streets to protest the murder of a man on camera. And they were from every ethnicity, every race, every religion. And when it veered toward violence, they were able to pull that back and stop that from being the narrative. So it went back to being people are peacefully protesting for justice. And those 4 cops got arrested, and they got charged with crimes, and that is exactly what should have happened. And beyond that, several other cops in various parts of the country who were caught on camera committing acts of violence were fired. And so I think that, thank God that everyone has a camera. Thank God we have the internet where that can immediately go around the world. And because of that, justice is being served. And if that gets Trump out of office, and some of these Republicans out of office, not to be partisan, but for me, that would be a miracle and a blessing. Now, I don't mean to disparage my friends who are conservatives, but I just have very strong ideas about this, as everyone knows. But I have found this. I have not been frightened of the people out on the streets. I have been incredibly encouraged by it, and I think every now and then things go well, and I think that's what's happened the last few days.
And
so
in our neighborhood and all over, you see people, families coming out the day after
Yes.
and helping random strangers with cleanup.
Yeah, where they've been painting out the graffiti, they've been cleaning up, sweeping up the glass, and the cops and the military are not our enemies. There's a very relaxed vibe right now, which is very, very nice. I talked to the cops, I thanked them, I said I know that it's been a very hard few days, and I also took a photo with a guy with a soldier with a machine gun, and I said again, thanks for your service, because these guys are not the enemy, these guys are not the villains. And so so that's my thought on that. So great, Thane, yay, 3 cheers.
Thank you.
So continuing the Mark Zickery art show, this is something I drew when I was in art school. An interesting little drawing, kind of, from one of my art classes, just to show you guys a little more Zickery stuff. And there you go. And so, okay, another question for Mr. Sci-Fi, Adam?
Yes. Question from Wagon Loads, who's asking, I'm not sure exactly what he's referring to, but he says, will you be putting any Space Command badges on eBay? I'm not sure whether he's talking about our patches or the buttons.
Both of those will be available through the Space Command store. We're talking to David Bartlett's talking to Amazon even as we speak, to see how we can put stuff up on Amazon. So yeah, that stuff's going to be made available to the millions of people around the world who want to show off their Space Command excitement. So yes, exactly. Yeah. So now, because Judy Beecher, where are you? There you are. You're in New York, so it's late. So go for it.
Hi, Mark. And tonight I'm tired. I had a long day. It was very hot here today. It was like super hot. So I wrote this week. I wrote a couple of pieces on social justice, and I had them performed today at a reading.
Great.
I performed one. I did a monologue, and then I cast actors to do another short play that I wrote about social justice, and then I acted in somebody's full length thing right after I've had a very busy day today, but it was great. It was exciting. It's really my first time writing for other people. So I usually, if I write something, it's something I can act in. So it's the first time I had to cast other people in something. It was fun. I'm curious. I'm trying to figure out how to shoot my short film that I wrote with the actors I have a camera question. If anybody can help, I'm not sure what to do, because the 2 actors are going to be separated in their own places, and it's not going to be like shot on Zoom. I need to be able to match like the cameras. And I have at home, I have a Canon 70D. and a Samsung S9, but the frame rates are different. They both have, different frame rates. Like one is 50 something, one's HD and the other one's not HD. And then also for the other actor, I'm just a little bit, before I start shooting, I don't know how to do that. And I've spoke to some someone who's a DP here, and she's afraid to come into the city. She's in New Jersey. She's afraid to come in. So people, are afraid to go near people. So
Dave or David Bartlett, do you want to address that? Oh, Dave, you need to unmute.
I got about that for a second.
Sure.
Hi, Judy. So for everybody that does this with these mixed media cameras and whatnot, it's really important to shoot them all at the same frame rate. The reason is when you put two different frame rates in the same timeline, it really messes with the editing program. Depending on the program we use, it may or may not be able to handle it. You might not know until you go to the output, and then it's too late. So it's very, very important for the frame rates to match. The other aspect of it can be fixed. Premiere can handle it to a point, but
what I was going to say is, if possible, frame rates should match, but chances are they're not. The ripple effect, we have 29.97, we have 30, we have 23.98.
Yeah.
But what I've found is always best is to go up, to pick a higher frame rate. There's not really enough difference between 29.97 and 30 to really be concerned. So I kept it at 29.97 throughout, because if you make your frame rate for the timeline, I'm going to round numbers here. If you're going to make it 24 frames per second and you get 30 frame per second footage, your software is going to knock out every 6th frame to make it 24 frames, which will look jittery. If you have a 30 frame timeline and you get 24 frame footage, it will add a duplicate of each 6th frame to turn the 24 into 30. So there's a little bit of a repetition there, but at least nothing's missing. And going in the other direction, you're missing frames. So I've always found it better.
You can fix your Premiere timeline before you load anything into it at 60 and have everything else read down to it. That can work too.
Yeah.
The big no-no is to take two different cameras within the same scene and shoot different cameras with different frame rates in the same scene. That's a big no-no.
Because what I've been doing, since I don't know what I've been using, I've been shooting stuff twice. So I've been doing it on my, shooting on with the Canon and the Samsung, the same thing.
No.
That's the hard way that you can do it. That was smart.
Just to see, because I don't know what the other person is going to have. So that's what I've been doing. The Canon is not HD. The Samsung is HD.
Well, here's what I would suggest. I'll give you.
I have a mic. I have a mic on the Canon. And
right.
I don't have anything on my.
Well, are you going to be shooting your actors? Are you going to bring your equipment to their places, or what's your plan?
It's me. I'm one actor, and then there's going to be a male actor and a voiceover.
Right.
And the male actor is at his place and maybe in another state.
Yeah.
So he's going to need to have to shoot himself, and I am going to have to.
Here's the issue with that as an editor, is when people shoot with two very different cameras, a lot of times it's really hard to make the footage match.
Yes.
And now you got them in totally different locations, so it's probably going to be next to impossible to make them match.
Right.
Well, we're in this. I mean, we're supposed to be at our house, like
Right.
We're not supposed to be together in the same place.
That's why the footage has to match, so
Right.
it looks like you're in the same location. So what I get a lot of times when people don't understand that is I'll get footage that's actually shot in the same location, but because it's different cameras and they're dealing with the way the different cameras handle the different frame rates and everything, I'll get something that looks they just don't look like they were even shot in the same place, even though they were.
Yeah.
Now you're shooting two things in totally different locations.
We don't have to be in the same place. No.
No. But you want them to look like they're in the same place.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. That's a different story.
I'm in my apartment. He's in his apartment. And that's what it's supposed to look like. We're not together.
Oh,
we're on the phone. We're talking, so we're not together. So it doesn't have to.
So
then them not matching could actually add to that effect.
Yeah, but I mean, the frame rate, you're right. The frame rate is the important part. They can look different, but I mean, the easy solution is just for both of you to shoot it on an iPhone 11, and make sure the frame rate matches.
If we both had an iPhone 11.
Well, no,
but
you could put it out to your friends, or you could get an iPhone 11 because they're very, very useful. I mean,
that's impractical.
Well, go for it. So I mean,
this section of the table brought to you by
I don't think
iPhone
that's
11.
happening right now,
but also
Samsung S9 maybe.
Jesus.
Also, and I'm not aware of how these two cameras. Maybe David has a better answer, but a lot of cameras will shoot in different frame rates. So when you're saying one,
when I
checked
when I checked on my phone, they had weird frame rates. It was like I was shooting. It was like 50.
Yeah, they're not consistent with each other's models and brands. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the main thing is just make sure that you prep. Don't have this. Sorry, guys. Shh. Have this guy have it be a problem that you fix in prep rather than in post.
Right. That's why I'm trying to even before because I have a couple of choices of actors that I'm using, but the thing is they need to be able to shoot themselves.
Yeah, well,
so it's a problem. It's like they're a great actor, but one of them has nothing. He has in Atlanta and he has no equipment. So it's like he has an iPhone 8.
Yeah. And really had a good answer there, and that is to start with a frame rate in Premiere that you fix at a higher rate, and everything else works against it. So don't take the clips in and say, do you want to change the frame rate to the clip you have? And say, no, you want to set it at 60 or something like it, 30 at least, and it'll stay there, and everything else will have to work up to it, and you can be more consistent that way. That'll make a big difference.
So when I'm setting a Premiere, put it in as 60. The frame rate is 60.
Yeah.
So then everything else has to
go up to it, not the other way around. That's your best bet.
Yeah, you try 60. I would just do 29.97 or 30. But sure, 60 is fine.
Okay.
Cameras, they'll give you a wacky frame rate. 50. 50 is not going to translate to 29.97 very well, but it will translate up to 60.
Right. If it is something above 30, you want to be above above the highest number. And frankly, even if you get to the point where you get a new piece of footage, you've got, let's say, a 30 frame timeline you're working with, and you get a new piece of footage that's suddenly, say, 50 frames a second, you can convert your timeline at that point to a higher frame rate.
But what I'll say, and we should put a pin in this because we do have a lot of people we still have to go to.
Sorry about that.
What I would say is, Judy, just call David Bartlett and Dave Edison prior to shooting and make sure that you've got this in hand. It's not. I mean, or you can do what I do, which is I just don't care and I throw it in.
Oh, just not care.
Yeah, I don't care. I just have my actors shoot every which way, and then Dave has to clean it up, and so
that.
But because I use something called money, and that kind of makes problems go away.
Very little of that.
Yeah.
Now you know why all Dave's hair is falling out.
Exactly. So, but thanks, Judy. So, okay, cool. 3 cheers, Judy Baker. Yay! Excellent. So, continuing the Mark Zickery Art Show. This is. Golly, sorry about the dogs.
How many of your pieces have they eaten yet?
None, surprisingly. But this is when I was like 18 or so. This is a self-portrait I painted when I was an art student. So that's the hippie version of Mark Zickery. For those of you who would like to, now these will all be available at the Space Command store in lovely, lovely prints and giclée, canvases. So, okay, cool. So another question for Mr. Sci-Fi?
Yes. We've got a question from Gregory Krug, who asks, do you have a favorite artist? Van Gogh, Picasso?
In terms of fine art, two of my favorites are Leonardo da Vinci and Van Gogh. I also like Botticelli a lot, and Michelangelo, of course. And then there's lots of the Impressionists, Monet, etc. Toulouse-Lautrec, Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec. In terms of commercial artists, like science fiction artists, I love Ed Emshwiller. I love Frank Frazetta and Al Williamson and Joe Orlando, all the EC weird science artists. There's just tons of people. Ron Cobb is a favorite. H.R. Giger, of course, was a genius. There's tons. Mobius. I love Mobius's work on Alien and also some of the other things he did. So there's a lot of folks. But yeah, those are some of the favorites. Okay, so let's see.
And if we could go to David, he's on the East Coast.
Sure, you bet. Go for it.
All right. So as some of you know, I do sound. I also do voiceover, and I'm starting to write. As Adam said earlier, I've been doing podcasts, and also I'm doing a little bit of writing for short films. But before I get into all of that, I don't know how to pronounce her name. Salt, yes, Salty. But for a couple things that I wrote down for my life, I have, as you can see right now, I'm kind of on a warmer tone, but I have this actual light bulb.
No, it's okay.
It's a Roy G. Biv light bulb, so you can change it to any of these color. Wait, you can't see them. Damn it! I always forget I have to do this. Let's just go like that real quick. I can change it to any of these colors right here, and I can change the brightness as well. And then on top of that, there's also Sweetwater, which does for your microphone. And I'm not using that microphone right now, but they have bundles and whatnot. And the one that I got was a Scarlett, and it comes with a compressor and all that. And it was like $210. And it comes also with Sennheiser headphones and everything you need. But if you don't want to pay the $210 straight up, they have like a 36-month thing where you could pay it off over that time. So it'd be like approximately $5 or $6 per month if you really want to do that. And then also my question is, so when I'm writing for film festivals, or not for film, when I'm writing and I want to submit to film festivals, should I also submit to or try to get some campaign money, like go to Kickstarter or GoFundMe or something of that nature? Is my question.
So
how ambitious are you short? Yeah, how ambitious are you?
Why not
short
see
films?
if you can get more money? There's no,
No, just be aware that if you go to Kickstarter or you go onto one of these, funding, that it's a lot of work to set up the request. So you might look at some of the successful campaigns.
Yes.
And say, how much work would that be for me? Some of them are simpler than others.
Yes.
But it can be a fair amount of work to rouse people, to get people interested specifically in your project, and to link up to the different sites that would probably be interested in your project. So there is work involved, but if you really do need money to get the effect you want, you can do it. But just look at some of the successful campaigns of similar kinds of projects and see if you're willing to do that kind of work. And if that makes sense to you, then go for it.
So I guess I should also ask this. If I put into whatever film festivals, would it be competing against if I ask Kickstarter or whatever? And also, I see a lot of films where they put like a trailer to their short film or to their feature film on Kickstarter. So would it be a good idea to finish the film first and then go to Kickstarter, or should
Kickstarter? No. Kickstarter is to use the money to make the film. That's the point of it. So you can use it for prep, you can use it for production, you can use it for post. You can break it into several campaigns. You don't air it on the finished film on Kickstarter.
No, it's just that you do it sizzle reel.
Well, yeah, absolutely. A sizzle reel, of course. A sizzle reel is going to serve you very well in many ways, and that's something that you can use on Kickstarter very effectively.
Just bits and pieces of your.
The one thing you have to be careful of with a short it's a short, right? Is that
I'm afraid I have to.
Is that when you do a short, you submit to festivals because many times, many of them want it not to have been exposed on the internet. So you need to find out what the rules are for submitting to festivals before you release it on the internet. That's very important. And again, it's what are you trying to accomplish? What's the point? And then you go from there. It's and why would people want to give you money? What serves, their purpose, their interests.
Look at this Poonam.
Yes.
Look at this Poonam.
You can try that. Good luck. But I'm very cognizant of what I'm doing serves the needs of my audience, because otherwise, I won't succeed. So, so anything else, David?
No, that was my question.
Okay. Yay. So now, continuing the Mark Zickery Art Festival, when I was a teenager, there was a great magazine called the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, and periodically they would do special authors issues. Ray Bradbury, Harlan Ellison, Ted Sturgeon, all these great writers of science fiction. They would have this great cover painting of the author. So when I was just out of college and just starting on the Twilight Zone Companion, I made up a fake cover with a self-portrait and various other little bits and pieces. And this is the cover that I did. So there's that. So I painted that. That's the original painting, and they actually published it in the magazine from so that was pretty fun. So okay, another Mr. Sci-Fi question.
Yes, question from Eric Thull, who asks, "Are you going to put moral values back into science fiction?"
Yes, without being sanctimonious. I mean, my moral value is active compassion, where you basically are a force for good in the world through compassion, through empathy, and through taking action for what is right, reaching across boundaries and barriers to create, it's exactly what people on the street have been doing. You say, okay, there's something I can do to make things better, but it's never from sanctimonious. It's not, standing on a soapbox. It's actually recognizing the common humanity of people. So that's it. And absolutely. So let's see. Bonnie, I guess you're next. Bonnie Janowski.
All right. Well, I'm enjoying the Mark Art Show.
Yeah, it's fun.
Good to see everybody here. And I'm a composer and getting back into doing a lot of big band jazz, but I do film and TV, musical theater, arrangements for singers, all kinds of fun music thing. So if anybody needs any music, I do a lot of different styles, from big orchestra to jazz to big band jazz, small group, all kinds of fun stuff. I usually tend to write live scores rather than synth scores. I'd rather use a small live group than a synthesized orchestra. In the process of updating my website and doing some different things. But I thought about Mark, you said something earlier about so many things I want to do. And that sometimes it's like, do I do this or this and this or this now? So prioritizing and being disciplined seems to be a good idea.
Well, but also when you have to decide between which project, and you have so many of them, it's very hard to tell which is the most important. I believe in the eye chart rule of thumb, which is, when you go into an optometrist for a pair of glasses, they put lenses in front of your eyes. Is this better or that? A or B, A or B, A or B, A or B. So I start with two of my projects. Which one of them is more important to me? Then I slide that one over. And when I do that with each of my projects, which is more or less, A or B, until I have all of them in an order of importance to me. And that way, I know which is important. So for instance, right now, I've got basically 3 projects I'm actively working on right now on a daily basis. There's Space Command, there's Sweet Haven, which is the show I'm creating with Rockney O'Bannon, and there's Screenlighting Yourself, which is a book I've sold, so I need to do it. And there's others that are on the back burner or the mid burner, but because I'm very clear on what I'm doing, I can get stuff done. And so that's part of it. And again, it's very important to know what you want to get accomplished long term, what you want your career to be, what you want to stand for, what body of work you want to create. Because again, many of us have multiple abilities. I mean, I had to stop doing artwork so I could get good at writing, which is why all of these things I'm showing you tonight were done when I was, a kid into a teenager into my very early 20s. When I was 22, I stopped drawing and painting and sculpting and with very few exceptions, I haven't done any of that stuff since. And the reason was because in order to become a professional writer and get good at it, I needed to stop drawing. And so I'm very rusty now. I want to get back to it, but I still have my visual sense. I can still communicate extremely well with visual artists, but I just had to get myself very rusty in one pursuit to get good at the other one. So that was my very deliberate choice.
That is helpful, and it's great when folks are multi-talented as you are.
Yeah. So anything else, Bonnie?
No, just if anyone needs music, any question, anything music, just come on my way, and I'll put my info in the chat.
Okay, yay! 3 cheers. Now continuing with the Mark Zickery art show. As a teenager, I started also doing photography, and there used to be something called a Polaroid SX70 instant camera, and there was an artist named Lucas Samaras who discovered that when the image first came out, you could apply pressure to the surface of the plastic and move the photochemicals around and alter the image. So I started doing that, and I started having gallery shows of my work and also articles about my work. So this is a manipulative photograph that combines sort of the skills of the photographer with the skills of the painter. So this is one of my images from that period. So let's see if I can get it to show. Yeah, it's here. I'll put it up fairly close. There we are. And that's one of my photographs from that period. And I really like that image a lot. And you can see there's a texture to it. And that you take sculptural tools and put...
For a long period of time.
What? I'm sorry?
Closer and for a longer period of time.
Okay, sure. I'll show it.
Wait, I don't need to see your face. I need to see the picture.
Yeah, but I need to see the screen so I can see what the picture's doing.
Oh, okay.
There, okay. So you can...
Okay, better. Yes,
there.
thank you.
Yeah, and here it is for the Mr. Sci-Fi crowd. And again, we're going to be doing a book called The Art of Mark Zickery, so you'll be able to see these things with my stories about how I came to do them. But it's okay. So okay, great. So another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
Yeah, and we're getting late, so I'm probably just going to do one more.
Yeah. Cool.
But this is a very interesting one regarding Space Command. Scott Baker asks, any plans to include sentient plants in Space Command and not evil ones?
That's an interesting question. We don't have sentient plants yet, but I'm a huge fan of Day of the Triffids and and so forth. So it's not something that's out of the question, to say the least. But we definitely have extremely aliens that'll be coming up. So that's right. Part of it. So let's see. So I guess Gino, go for it. There we go.
Okay. Anybody here pretty much knows what I do. Okay. When my guy Billy was on, you mentioned 4 things. What those 4 things about the adventure career, make you money, and then publicize your work? I know there was one other, but that was just...
The other one was where you're learning something. So that might be a mentor, that might be a class, that anything that you're learning something that you can apply to the other 3. So for instance, writing the book with Guillermo del Toro was very much about learning. Okay, it also helped as I was able to legitimize myself. And I earned some money from it, not a lot, but that was mainly the reason I did that was so I could learn from Guillermo and spend quality time with him. So I'm very clear. Everything I do is for a very specific purpose, and that allows me again to be very, very directional and also not waste time. So yeah. So anything else, Gino? What else do you need?
Yeah, that was really good how that got brought up tonight, because I'm good at a lot of stuff, but you run out of time and the frustration and all that.
Yeah.
Dave Edison still on. Yeah, if you put your number in the chat for me, hey, buddy, if you put your number in the chat for me, I want to talk to you about some stuff as well.
Great.
Damn, I had notes. Right. I love that eye chart rule of thumb. Just would like to go and share something with you. Also, just the remarks that you had earlier, Mark, with regards to the riots, protests, and all that.
Yeah.
Really feels real spot on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just from an actor's perspective, and just my life carrying is over. When growing up, when you share all the stuff about the stuff going on in the Middle East and whatnot, and they show Beirut, volatile points, not only there but throughout the world, Tiananmen Square. I always really wondered, what's that like on another level? Because I've been in protests before in earlier years. And have that deep militaristic stuff, going on and around me.
Yeah.
So I went up to one of the protests, where, it was, shooting up tear gas and the flash bombs on Saturday.
Yeah.
And eventually, it was fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Carry that forward. And I got tear gassed. And when I first heard that as a kid, I thought it was just, it's going to make me cry.
No.
But that's no joke.
No,
man.
no. It's, no, absolutely. And, but again, this is so different from the past because within a matter of days, the protesters won. And that's great. And that doesn't mean, I see all of this, everything, as a continuing struggle. It doesn't end. It doesn't end. Trump brought, I'm trying not to be political, but Trump brought back overt racism that I thought we were done with for decades. There was obviously racism up, but it had gone underground. And there were certain things that people just were not allowed to say. And now they are again because of this crazy, stuff. But that said, I think there's strength in numbers, and I think we're proving that. And Elaine was, on the Poor People's March on Washington in '68. This was after Martin Luther King's assassination. It was a march that he planned, and Elaine was part of a theatrical troupe that was going to be performing the life of Martin Luther King. And they were there on the front lines when the army moved in and started killing people. And so Elaine, has been there, done that. And so first of all, what that means is that she's totally not bothered or frightened by what's going on now. We were there on the street with the police cars burning, and she wasn't frightened. She didn't give a shit. I mean, she cared about the issue, but she didn't, and I wasn't hysterical either. I wasn't, it's like, we're okay. It's going to be fine. It's like, but it's the same struggle. And dealing with apartheid, the project we've been working on with Lord Peter Hain about apartheid, you see that if you take the larger view that it's all the same struggle, whether it's the struggle of the Okies in the Dust Bowl with Grapes of Wrath, or the civil rights movement in the '60s, or the anti-Vietnam protests, or any of this stuff, it is still the same struggle of the underrepresented, those who don't have a voice versus those in power who are just trying to rob the piggy bank. It's rich. It's really rich versus poor, but it's because rich are not willing to pay their fair share, and they want to steal from the poor. It's the opposite of Robin Hood. So it's like, so the more we're out on the streets, the more we're voting, the more we're empowered. There's more of us than of them. And the more that we understand that and reach across boundaries and barriers, the more we'll win. And but there's no point where you can relax. There's no point where you can say, well, it's over and we've won, and and just say, okay, you put a bow on it. That doesn't work that way, because they'll come back. They'll always come back. They will always try to find a new way to win the forces of evil. And I don't mean
what I was saying even during the election, he, and I won't say who he is, is an excuse for antisocial, regressive behavior. But I had no idea how far it would go.
Yeah, and again, let's not get too much into a political conversation. But if you read history, as I do, from Herodotus in the ancient world all the way through the rise and fall of the Third Reich, which I just read, and also I'm reading. I just finished H.G. Wells' Outline of History. You see that none of this stuff is new. None of it is new. And whether it's Spartacus, leading a slave revolt, 2,000 years ago before Jesus, and his people all getting, crucified, literally, I mean, it's the same struggle. And sometimes you're going to win and sometimes you're going to lose, but you have to find a way to nurture your heart and surround yourself with loving people so that you can continue the fight. It's that simple. And, so anyway, anything else you need, Gino?
Oh, no, that's beautiful, Mark. I wasn't expecting all that, but
Okay.
that's awesome as usual, man.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yay, 3 cheers. So I guess we've stopped the questions for Mr. Sci-Fi, right, Adam? So now, let me see, Susanna, I guess you're up. So turn off, there you go.
Hi, everybody. Good to see everybody. It's nice to see all of you. I missed a couple of weeks. I was,
Cool.
I'm having such a dang problem with this stupid phone. Of course, it's my turn, right?
Yeah, great.
Okay.
That's fine. Don't worry about it. Just go.
Yeah, sorry.
Mark, is there
Okay,
a better
so-
phone you'd like to recommend?
A better phone than that phone?
That you'd like to recommend?
The iPhone 11 is great. I love the iPhone 11.
Yeah. I think, yeah, this is definitely calling. This is unbelievable. I got this stupid, okay, whatever. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry
that'll
about
work.
it.
Okay. Yeah, so I've been, I guess quarantine's been weirdly good because it did sort of focus me on content that I wanted to do, which was to put a little show, put a show out. So I was like, what can I do? And I started this home show, and y'all have seen a few episodes. So about a mediocre homemaker who has her own show, and kind of comedic, and but also people are kind of glad that they get something out of it too, like a recipe or how to do something. So I got 5 episodes out now. I've got probably 5 more that I'm currently editing and getting ready to smash out. It's fun. I like what you said, Mark, and this kind of was something I was going to ask about getting more views and how you changed the title to something, because I've been tweaking that really worked for you, right?
Yes. Because again, you have to think about the audience you're trying to reach and what they're interested in. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But but yes, because I've worked on so many iconic shows, and because my cast have as well, I'm trying to cue into that larger audience, because I know that Space Command, that millions of people around the world will enjoy it. And so I just have to figure out how to reach them so they know about it. So that's what I'm engaged upon.
Right. So what does my audience want? And I'm keeping that in mind all the time.
Yes.
And then tweak title to that.
Yes. And but again, it's going to be, it's got to be cued into something that already has a very, very, very large fan base, because otherwise it just won't be heard. It won't, you have to find the thing that's going to get people to click on it, out of curiosity. And then hopefully that your content will then satisfy them, or they'll enjoy it, or they'll subscribe. I've now got 50,000 subscribers on Mr. Sci-Fi, and as I said, millions of hits. So, and it generates money. It's not a lot of money, but it's a little money that comes in every month, and that's fine, cool, great. But again, I make sure that Mr. Sci-Fi does not take much of my time. In other words, it's Space Command takes a lot of my time, and even more of Dave's time. But that's because that's a major project, and Mr. Sci-Fi is designed to be easy. And if it were hard or enormously time consuming, I wouldn't be doing it. So there's always that trade-off. So what else? What do you need?
Yeah, I had this question. Okay, I obtained the domain name for what would go with this show, and so I thought, well, I would put recipes that they could link to into the description or whatever on YouTube,
right?
And then they could go to a blog and they could. So I'm wondering if anyone knows about this. I thought I would also upload the videos, of course, on the blog or on the website. Is it best to upload a the actual YouTube video
on your website? Yes.
Or if I want to put the video clip, it's the clip itself without being the YouTube link. In other words, I want to keep them on my website if they go to my website. So maybe they'll look at recipes, or do I want to send them to YouTube where I guess they could watch more episodes, but maybe they'll just. Well, that's my question.
Well, if you have, go ahead. Go ahead, David.
So there's 2 choices. One is if you put it on YouTube, you get the likes and the reviews and the added compilations of views. That's a good thing. If you put it straight on your website, there's two problems with that. One is the website actually will use some of its functioning power to run that video if it's embedded on your site. If you connect a link to it on your website, you can run many, many, many more videos potentially than you can if you have them embedded on your site. Now, if you want to embed it on your site and send it back to YouTube, it's possible to do that. But then again, why would you bother? Because now you're using a bandwidth of your channel, your website. So put the stress on YouTube and have them do all the analytics and just put a link on your website.
I got it. Because if I do directly embed it on my website, then I'm using it at my own base.
That's right. And there's a limit.
Yeah.
It'll slow down the website in general if you do that too. There's really no reason to do that.
Right. And also YouTube can generate money if you have advertising on your videos. So again, that's all to the good. So, it's very funny because like one guy did a video about how to buy a Tesla for $700 and it was kind of tricky the way he did it, but he got $55,000 from the ad revenue because it went viral, and he was able to buy a Tesla with that. So, so it can be pretty amazing.
Okay. All right. So bottom line is link the YouTube video to the website /blog and have it cycle back to YouTube for more views, maybe monetizing, etc.
Well, the whole way you should design everything is that it's circular. So in other words, any way they find you leads to all the other ways that you can generate revenue, publicity, build audience, all of it. So for instance, if someone comes to YouTube, ideally on Mr. Sci-Fi, they should be able to buy Space Command stuff. They should be able to go to our website. It should be very fluid, and so it doesn't matter which, or if they go to the website, they should be able to find the YouTube content or the shop. In other words, everything should be circular. So it doesn't matter which portal they enter, as long as they can find everything that you're trying to get them to find. Okay. So that's how you do it. So for instance, on Mr. Sci-Fi, I have a link to the to the Space Command merchandise, and it's right there under the video, and so forth. So yeah. So anything else?
Okay. No, that's great. Thank you very much.
Yay! 3 cheers. So Akira, you're up. Go for it.
Anyways, thanks for your help today. I could not find it for some reason the address in the session, but now I'm in here. Thank you very much. My name is Akira, I'm a composer, originally from Tokyo, Japan, 2017, in the end of 2017, and I almost 2 years and a half here, and I'm living in Toluca Lake, LA, almost near the Studio City. And I'm concentrating on film composing for horror or suspense stuff, but I'm open to any opportunity. I have no, never say no policy, all the time. And and I'm also doing the teaching online guitar and Japanese language, and that's what makes my living with. And especially right now, there's nothing to ask you so far. Just I'm concentrating on my stuff, composing and preparing for my lessons and on myself, for every direction. And that's it. So for just I'm trying to do my best during my quarantine. And if something changed, maybe we have to do some other stuff. And just keep on myself for running, just not staying in home. That's what I am.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Yay! 3 cheers. So now we go to Michael Tabb, a man among men. Go ahead, please.
Aren't all men, really?
No, not really. I know a lot who aren't.
Okay, fair enough. No, I don't need anything. I just want to lend support. I'm sorry I haven't been here in a couple weeks. Things have been just crazy. I'm visiting and helping my father in Florida, so I'm out of town. But I just want to wish you all love and health and safety and healing. There's a lot of terrible things going on in the world. Not the least of it is the whole Floyd incident. It's not an incident; it's a fucking tragedy. And just came here to support all the other artists out there trying to trying to make magic happen and say something with their work and do something decent for this world.
Great. Well, 3 cheers. Yay, Michael. So I guess that only leaves May, correct? May, are you there, or are you just listening in, or have you been eaten by saber-toothed tigers? So I guess May's not online. So that means Elaine. Wonderful, Elaine. Yay, Elaine.
Okay, just plugging away with Ripple Effect, not like Dave, but
Space Command.
Space Command.
Yeah.
We had a nice, Mark and I had a nice call from, where is she, Portugal?
Michelle Da Costa, who's our development executive and also appears in Ripple Effect as a BBC reporter, is in Portugal, even though she's British. And but we had a lovely conference call with her and with a friend of hers who is an executive with the BBC to help us hone our pitch for Subversive for the miniseries. And we're going to be we're working up the materials to go in and pitch it to BBC sooner rather than later. So that's really exciting.
We're very lucky to have a mole because
in the BBC, like a spy.
Because the piece, which is covers quite some years, is subversive, and it starts in South Africa and it moves over to London. And it basically what it's talking about is the importance of standing for your fellow human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And
so it's very timely now.
It's extremely timely because it came from Lord Peter Haynes' memoir about his family in South Africa and how they fought the good fight until they were thrown out of the country, and how they continued the fight in England and continued the fight just for the average Joe. Even today. And
he led the sports boycott on South Africa that basically turned the world's attention to ending apartheid. So it was hugely powerful.
And also he helped with the peace accords in Ireland.
Yeah.
He was key to the peace accords in Ireland. And
was he part of the Sun City boycott?
I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was involved with that.
Yeah.
So
so it's about his family and their journey, and the thing is that there are a lot of people who'd be interested in it. The thing is to say, this is where you have to say, well, okay, what is going to be the platform? And when you determine the platform, you say, how can I respond to what this platform sees as their demographic and still really maintain the story and the heart of your piece? So you find someone who basically you feel that their audience would connect with the heart of your piece, but you also have to look to the executives and say, how do they perceive their demographic? And how can I mold this without destroying the heart of the piece,
right? So
that the platform can see that it would really turn to their audience. So that's very interesting. So we're getting a lot of help over there. Yeah. And our dogs are going insane. Please forgive me. And so basically, it's the Ripple Effect and Subversive.
Okay.
And trying to land, because of my wonderful DP, still trying to land the financing for Voiceless Roar, which again is about people in a small town and fighting back for the American dream, which many people have either surrendered or forgotten about. So it's all of these are very timely pieces, and that's it for me. And
so there's nothing you need. Dog germs.
Yes.
Anything you need?
Nothing I need unless you know somebody with a tremendous amount of money who would like to make a social statement.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay, yay, Elaine. 3 cheers.
Or if you have access to Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo. Elaine is trying to get to Mark Ruffalo. So yeah, absolutely. So now it's me, wonderful me.
Yes.
So continuing with the Mark Zickery art show, which we've been doing all night. This is when I was 18, I was assigned as an art student at UCLA the job of doing a self-portrait as a famous person. So I decided to choose God. And so if you can see this here, I'll move it closer. Let's see there. I'll try and it's very reflective, I know. But so I did this image of myself as God. So there it is. And so this will all be in the art of Mark.
And that says it all.
That does. And so that'll also be in the Art of Mark Zickery book that we're going to be doing. And which will also, by the way, I haven't shown you a lot of the art I did as a little kid, but I drew Mr. Spock when I was 10, and I was drawing aliens and rocket ships and all of that stuff, and so it'll be really, really fun to show that stuff. And in fact, I recently, this might be interesting to you, Michael, I actually discovered recently a script for Star Trek that I wrote when I was 10. that I was planning to film on Super 8 and never ended up shooting it, but was definitely in pre-production. So eventually, and I also found a comic book I drew when I was about maybe 7 or 8 of Superman racing the Flash, because they had announced they were going to do that comic, and I was impatient and decided to draw my own. So it's just the pencils, but I think I'm going to get it inked and then colored, and that could be also a very fun Space Command Premium. So cool. So in terms of what I'm doing, Elaine and I are writing and directing and producing the new 2-hour Space Command episode Ripple Effect, where our actors have shot their own scenes in their own homes with their own cameras, all the way from LA to Atlanta to New York to Portugal. And we have amazing cast: Armin Shimmerman, Robert Picardo, Mira Furlan, Bill Mumy, Barbara Bain, Neil deGrasse Tyson, on and on. It's just Christina Moses, who's starring in A Million Little Things on ABC. It's just phenomenal. We have visual effect shots. We've got all sorts of stuff. We've got actors in scenes together where they weren't even in the same country, and we also have scenes of Mike Harney. We have him as a younger man, where we grabbed headshots of him, some footage, close shots of him from Deep Space Nine, and then put our own background behind it and matched his lips to, this is just entre nous. This is just, don't tell anybody. But we matched his lips to the lines we have him say. It's really fun. And we also...
Thank you, Dave.
Yes, and we also have the character of Ed Kemmer, played by 3 actors. One as a baby, one at age 23, and one as an old man, played by J.G. Hertzler, who was an actor in Star Trek, who played a very famous Klingon. It's just hugely fun. And so we're going to be debuting that at the Space Command online convention. That'll be in the next few weeks, where we screen the first hour of the show, then we premiere of this 2-hour show. Then we have panels with our stars and with our crew through the rest of the day. It's going to be hugely fun, and we're going to be launching a crowdfunding campaign, and we're still selling Space Command shares. So anyone who wants to buy a Space Command share, or even a half share at $3,750 or $7,500 for a full share, please do, because it helps keep Dave Edison and David Bartlett in fish and chips, and and so forth. Keeps a roof over their head, and we even have our dogs in the scene with David Bartlett in a spectacular show-stopping scene. Phenomenal. And it's going great. So I'm writing the new book, Greenlighting Yourself. I'm working on Sweet Haven. We're going to have a table read of that very, very soon. We're happy and healthy and living life every day. And we have each other, and we have our dogs, and we have you guys, and life is sweet. So that's about it for me right now. It's been very fun sharing my artwork with you guys. I never bring that stuff out, so it's very fun to share it with you all. And then and eventually I'll get back to drawing and painting and all that stuff in sometime in the near future. So that's about it. So stay safe, stay well. Anything that anyone needs in the last, or otherwise, we'll just say we'll see you next week. And thanks for being here. And you're all part of our family. So 3 cheers, everybody. And thank you, Mr. Sci-Fi audience, too. So we'll talk very, very soon. Bye, guys.
Bye. Good
Take
night.
care.
Bye.
Good night.
Stay safe.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night. So.